Hello, everybody. Today's March 29th, and we're getting ready to go into April. Today we're doing government and security, or not security. Dang it.
You had one job, Krista.
I had one job, and I instantly forgot. Government and social is what we're doing today.
You got any house updates this week?
No, I was worried about that storm that blew in through last night, but it was fine. It didn't even blow our chairs off our porch this time.
You got porch chairs, but you don't have a refrigerator?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had the chairs from the old apartment. They're growing some sort of moss on them because they're very old, but we just have them out there right now.
My whole deck's covered in algae.
Yeah, we've got radishes growing and some spinach, and other than that, our grass is growing out of control.
There's so much that needs power washing.
Well, Krista, you know what else is out of control? At least if we take the word of our fearless leaders, that's big tech. And time again, you might call it political theater. I certainly do. They march them up there, although they don't march them anywhere now. You do it remotely. But you get on your Zoom and you get on there and you talk to them, and they have to ask hard-hitting questions, which the tech giants refuse to answer. And then what happens?
Mostly nothing.
Mostly nothing. But we keep doing it.
Yes or no? U.S. lawmakers fume over big tech's answers on misinformation. Now, the only thing I could think of when I was reading this was, to be fair, a lot of the lawmakers' questions are borderline incoherent. They don't have a great grasp of technology.
Have you noticed, and they all do this, and I'm sure they're being coached to do this, but do you think it has any effectiveness? Every time they ask them a question, it's always, thank you, madam, whatever, for giving me the opportunity to answer this question. And that is the response every time.
Yeah.
Remember when the standardized testing when we were in school? And one of the big things was like, you need more length. The answers need to be at least a paragraph. Always restate the question. And we were like, but that doesn't really, like, they know what they're reading, right? The people grading this, they're not going to be unaware. No, you have to restate the question. I feel like that's what they're doing here.
I think a lot of the questions also, like, not just the restating the questions, but like the questions that they're asking in the first place aren't designed to have any kind of meaningful or thoughtful answer.
They definitely do that thing where they grandstand.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to get a sound bite so they can, get reelected.
The best example of that was when they were vetting the Supreme Court, the latest one.
Yeah.
I mean, they would go on for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then at the end, because it has to be a question, it'd be like, do you like pancakes?
I mean, I would have a lot more respect for Zuckerberg because, like, when watching the Zuckerberg's testimony from last year or the year before, whenever it was, I would have a lot more respect for him if he would have just, like, the perfect answer for some of those questions would have just been, Senator, imagine how dumb the average person is. Now imagine half of people are dumber than that. That's what we've got to deal with on Facebook.
They would eviscerate you on that. Like, my constituents are not dumb, Mr. Zuckerberg. I do not appreciate it. No, they got to play this as it is.
Yeah, you can't say that.
You're on a stage.
Yeah.
And the rules are not the same as everywhere else. But anyway.
But engagement challenge, is that not untrue?
The yes or no question is that these lawmakers are getting more and more fed up with these non-answers.
Yeah.
Or at least they want to seem like they are. So they are getting a little more aggressive, but I don't think that they've quite reached the level of aggression that is required when dealing with monsters. And more theater, certainly.
This was amazing.
You can describe this as, is Apple somehow trying to explain to us how the wall around the walled garden isn't exactly a wall.
Apple says that iOS developers have multiple ways of reaching users and are far from limited to using only the App Store. Their argument boils down to, well, we haven't blocked anything in Safari, so you can do what you want with web applications.
Which is true on every other platform in the universe. It's not like Apple's giving us anything here. They're just choosing not to restrict one other thing.
So, Epic, tell us about how you can implement Fortnite in a web browser. Oh, wait, you can't.
I bet they're working on like a string, like a Luna type.
Yeah, remember, was it Luna? The thing that lets you play Stadia games?
That's Amazon's version.
Oh, okay. Google was like, oh my gosh, we can use the web browser for this, and it's like a hacked up kludge. But yeah, it's amazing that, the Apple reality distortion field is in full effect here. Remember when Apple made Chrome for iOS use the Safari webpage rendering engine. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Well, that's not even the best example of terrible things they've done. But the because of these things that big tech is doing, the lawmakers are definitely getting as much mileage as they can out of the people's distaste for all of this. Because I think, as generally, most people understand that they're kind of being taken advantage of at this point. Maybe not everybody, but a decent amount. And the Democrats are definitely looking to capitalize on that.
Inside Democrats' strategy to bombard big tech. Like, if you're not political, that's fine. But this is a good article explaining, I don't know, it's kind of a peppering strategy. Instead of having one big law to fight, this outlines all the little attacks that are coming from Section 230, as well as like the age thing to try to prevent kids from joining things, and tracking and privacy. And there's a million little bee stings here. And I guess the strategy is, hey, big tech can't fight all this, right?
It's probably a good move because the legal team then has to spread itself out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And one loss doesn't mean we've lost everything. Although what's the same is true for the wins.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that's mentioned in this article is, did you catch the argument against Section 230, which is not a direct argument against Section 230. It just says that something transformational has happened when the site builds an algorithm that produces awful content that users have promoted. Like, we're not talking about removing the awful content from the user, but when there is a financial incentive to run ads or to algorithmically enhance, whatever the misinformation content is, then that's when some kind of transgression has occurred.
But I don't think the Democrats are going after 230.
It was mentioned in that article.
They say some lawmakers in the article. I think they're talking about, I don't think these lawsuits will focus on that, unless they were lying that whole time and they do want to get rid of it. But we'll see. I'm sure that the tech companies will have, like Apple, they'll put out some half-assed press release explaining why this is not what you think it is.
I'm also really surprised that article did not touch on Zuckerberg saying, yeah, bring Section 230 reform. We welcome it. Here's some ways that we would like it to be reformed so that our competition can no longer compete, but we can.
The old Google play. Well, this headline really confuses me because when it comes to, if you've ever read Sun Tzu or Machiavelli, this would be the polar opposite of what they would tell you to do. In boxing or any kind of fighting, they have this concept of telegraphing a strike, meaning everybody knows it's coming and your opponent has time to react to it. You don't want to do that. And yet,
the Biden administration to launch cyber attacks on Russia as feud with Putin escalates. So this entire article, there is nothing substantive in it at all, except at the very end, it basically says, well, at some point we need to have some teeth here in these policies. We're going to have to do something because we haven't done anything so far, which is also kind of a self-summary of the entire article.
They actually got a comment from some of the Russian politicians who are going to have to deal with this. And they said, yeah, we're not too worried about this. We're pretty sure what they're going to try to do is attack our vaccine.
Yeah.
And say that it's ineffective.
Yeah, which seems odd, like an odd thing to say. Remember when we took out the Iranian nuclear whatevers? Like the nuclear enrichment things?
The controls on it? Like that Stuxnet style?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was us. I don't know.
I think there's another country that they might look at before the U.S., although it's basically a proxy. But the crazy thing about this is that, isn't Russia who we blame for attacking us with vaccine information?
Yeah.
Is this fighting fire with fire? Is that okay? Because we're going to kill regular Russians if this succeeds. If this is what it is, right?
Yeah, it's probably not. Maybe this is like the double misinformation thing. It's like, I don't know. It's just an odd thing I figured it would be a Stuxnet style thing where something like that would happen. And then the Biden administration would be like, surprise, we took out your whatever.
Yeah.
This whole thing is just reeks of no you.
And they're both doing the same thing.
Yeah,
do they have access to any of our vaccines in Russia, or are they straight up?
You can just buy them.
Okay.
Pfizer will happily sell, the Eastern Bloc whatever it wants, as long as they've got the dollars and or gold bars.
But I'm saying, does their government allow that?
I think so. You can buy it through. Well, I mean, maybe not directly from the U.S., but they were buying medicine from the U.K. there for a while.
But I thought they weren't believers in that kind of vaccine. Maybe if you live in Russia or one of the former Soviet states, give us some info on that. The Supreme Court is cranking out some decisions, finally. The tiny fraction of the amount of time that they actually do anything is now. And we're getting some interesting results from that.
The U.S. Supreme Court rebuffs Facebook appeal in user tracking lawsuit. So this is what we reported on. This was just last week, right?
No, this is the like buttons.
Yeah. So when you're logged out, the like buttons track you anyway. And some user said, wait a minute, that's not cool because I'm logged out. And the Supreme Court, and they lost. The user won, Facebook lost. And so Facebook appealed, but the U.S. Supreme Court's like, no, that's fine.
So $15 billion. Now, this is not a set, like they don't have to pay $15 billion yet. That's just saying that this case can continue. Yeah. Now, I think, because they mentioned this was from 2010 to 2011, I think what happened was during that time, the like buttons essentially authenticated you.
Yeah.
After that, the like button is still writing to your shadow profile, but not actively authenticating you.
Yeah.
So if you read this and you're like, oh, they stopped doing that? Not really. No, they didn't really stop doing it. It's just that they were really, really badly doing it.
They widened the loophole. There's still a lot of agencies out there that are like, let's put like buttons on everything. And at this point, the like button is like, originally it was like 3 kilobytes of JavaScript, and now it's like 1.5 megabytes of JavaScript, and it's just like no one clicks the like button. Nobody clicks the social share buttons. Like you got the Facebook and the Twitter button right there. If you pull The Verge's analytics, The Verge, which by all accounts should have tens, if not hundreds of millions of hits per month, that number is going to be like single digits. Nobody uses that because it's garbage. It never works correctly. And it's megabytes and megabytes of JavaScript.
Now, that's just the share. That's not the like button. So don't comment about that. But
yeah,
it's the same idea. If you click on that and you're logged into Facebook, then they know what you're doing there. They probably know even if you don't click on it. But that's not the same as what we were talking about before.
It's foreshadowing for this next article, because if you haven't learned the dark pattern, like the dark pattern punishes you for even trying to use these buttons versus copy paste. Like once you learn how to copy paste, it's like, oh, that's not a miserable, horrible experience. You remember to use copy paste. You don't click the buttons.
It's so much faster.
But it gives you that nice little modal, and it lets you type your own thoughts into
it. A little modal that causes the entire machine to chug. It crashes my other tabs.
It pulls in the meta. You're not going to get a thumbnail if you copy and paste, sir.
No, you do. You do.
Oh, and Facebook automatically does that anyway?
Yep, Facebook does it, Twitter does it, Discord does it. Like, there's no reason to use a share button anymore.
Well, there you go. The Verge, what have they done? But yeah, this article is about the dark patterns, and I definitely see these a lot. I mean, you could argue that Amazon has dark patterns, couldn't you?
Yes. So try to cancel Prime if you don't believe us.
They will probably fall afoul of this.
California bans dark patterns that trick users into giving away their personal data. Do you not want to share your home address with our bevy of advertisers?
Wouldn't you also argue that every one of those cookie screens, because they have that allow all button, and that's often the only thing you can see.
Yeah, I think a good lawyer could definitely argue that. Like, if you don't have a deny all button that makes it easy as allow all, then you're running afoul of this, which I think is delightful in a Schadenfreude kind of way.
But here's the argument, and this is what the argument's going to boil down to. They are denied by default. If you just click Save Changes, they're denied, because that's the rule. But it gives you no indication of that. And the only button, it really is just like, oh, I really would like you to click this Allow All button. It's a different color. It's shiny.
That's a dark pattern.
Yeah. So.
But there's also the one that I see all the time. It's on the Farmer's Almanac website where it's like, support us now. And then there's like this tiny little link in the footer of the modal that's like, continue without supporting. A lot of times I'll just press back when I encounter that, because it's like, I'm not even going to look at that.
I'm trying to imagine the core controlling team for the Farmer's Almanac interfacing with the web team.
Yeah.
I bet that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love to be a fly on that wall.
They actually have like a pretty large website, so I imagine it takes quite a bit to maintain. And I'm like, wow.
Well, we've been talking about some of the excitement going on in Utah that has to do with all of their devices being sold. They wanted a particularly pointless filter on it. And a lot of people are like, this is stupid. I mean, just look at Australia tried it. The UK tried it. There were several other smaller countries that tried it. Nobody succeeded. It's never been successful. But Utah says, you know what? We're doing it anyway.
Utah governor has signed legislation requiring porn filters on cell phones and tablets, according to thehill.com. The maximum fine is $500 per manufacturer. You think they're just going to be like, all right, fine, here's a check.
I think, here in the Bible country, it's not uncommon. It's less common now, but in the past it was more common that individual counties would be dry, meaning they wouldn't sell alcohol. And then that meant that every road going out of that county, on the county line, there'd be a liquor store. I think there's going to be a tablet store and a phone provider on every outgoing road right at the border of Utah.
I think that for
Last
$500
chance.
for a $500 maximum fine, I just don't think they'll care. I just don't see this actually doing anything.
Maybe. I don't know. What price are you willing to pay? But also, I think the customers, if you charge them a little markup to recover that, they'd pay it as well.
Yeah, it's like $10 extra Utah tax per phone. They're like, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, because people want this content.
People probably don't even understand that that's what's going on there.
Maybe. What is the Utahnians? Utonians?
Engagement challenge. What is that?
I've never considered that before.
I think Utahns, right? That sounds weird.
Seems,
though,
yeah.
in English.
Seems really weird.
Utahns.
Utonians? Anyway. Attorney generals are up in arms, and I should have put this right after the Biden story. Because this really is like, oh, this is a huge health crisis. Let's do it to this other country.
Facebook and Twitter must do more to fight anti-vaccine misinformation, a dozen state attorneys general demand. So they were browsing Facebook, just looking at their local groups, their local constituents. And like I was saying, in the very first story in this news program, they were thinking, wow, a lot of our constituents are really dumb.
Also, we don't do corrections anymore. It got too petulant, to be honest. Well, last week I said that Washington Post, this made me think of it, lied about find the votes. No, they lied about find the fraud.
Yes.
The phrase was find the fraud.
That's why I was confused.
Yeah, I just misspoke. So
But-
he did say find the votes.
But that's still fairly petulant.
Petulant? That's criminal. That phrase is in the official inquiry document.
Wow.
It was referenced at the trial, at the impeachment. It doesn't matter now, but it's something. And I will, after looking at this story, I go back to my assertion that we should have never given away the domain registrations.
Yeah.
Really? We gave it to these people.
Nominet CEO finally ousted after months of wrangling, and also about half the board. So basically, this is the group that handled the .uk domain registrations, or UK, United Kingdom domain registrations.
Co-UK, right?
Co-UK, yeah. They were turning it into a for-profit venture, and by for-profit, it's like for a lot of profit, and a lot of domain hosting companies and businesses and stuff like that pushed back after endless price hikes, because why do you need that? This is the same level of concern you should probably have if like Jeff Bezos is interested in owning your local water company. It's like, what's
But why?
why is a billionaire interested in owning the water company? It's like, well, you have to have water.
I think it would be more like Jeff Bezos buying your local property valuator.
Your house is worth $7 billion. You're gonna have to what? No.
So they also proved that these people didn't immediately come after them and say, you have to quit. They just come after them and they said, we know what you're doing here. It's on paper. We saw it. And they proved that they used company resources to fight that.
Yeah.
And that was really, really against the rules. So there was not much chance for them. This is a feel-good story, if you're into the kind of stuff that we're into. But I'm afraid they probably didn't do it because he was famously a computer scientist.
Yeah.
I think they probably did it because he was famously something else that's getting a lot of traction right now.
New UK currency honors Alan Turing, pioneering computer scientist and code breaker. They also chemically castrated him.
Oh.
And that's what I was talking about. That's the reason I think he's getting this recognition, because back in the day, it was not allowed to be attracted to what he was attracted to.
And he would have gotten... I mean, it was a really dark time. Like, I don't know. It's just... It was he was a known war hero by the time he was persecuted for that. And it didn't... Like, nobody was like, maybe we shouldn't do this, which is astonishing.
I bet there was quite a bit in the wartime code-breaking brass who were very angry that he was so much better at it than they were.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, how can I destroy him?
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, that's a common problem.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the audience can relate to that.
But that's cool. They also talk about these banknotes are now made of a polymer, not made of like paper or linen or whatever anymore.
And there's some kind of a foil on it, so it's supposed to be really hard to counterfeit.
Wonder how much those cost to engineer per note.
They're so pretty. Like, our banknotes are just so sad and drab and gray. Look how colorful these are.
Yeah, but the good thing about our money as compared to theirs is it doesn't remind us that we're serfs. We kind of are.
Yeah.
But our money doesn't remind us that. Like
hello, Lord Bezos. How is it going?
Like the Canadians and the Australians, their money should really upset them.
That's true.
Speaking of the Australians, this is an insane headline. And you read it and you think, well, there's going to be some nuance here that I'm not understanding. No, this is literally what they're doing, which for the past 2 decades, they've been screaming, we have to do this. We must save the earth. And not only do we save the earth, but look at all the money you're going to get back. Well,
Australians could be charged for exporting energy from rooftop solar panels to the grid. The article says that most people in Australia that have rooftop solar panels can expect to save $700 to $900 a year off their electrical bill, which is such a vanishingly small amount of cost given the cost to install the solar panels. Like, why would you even ever install the solar panels?
They do have some pretty cheap energy, though, right? Because they got all that coal, I imagine. If you're Australian.
One of the executives on this said that they have, it's a traffic jam of electricity on sunny days. There's just so much electricity. We can't put that in the grid. And I'm not a man of science or anything, but that just doesn't sound right.
You know how they have those flare wells for natural gas? Couldn't we just take something that requires a ton? Couldn't we just mine Bitcoin on a pole in the middle of the town? It's like, if there's overrun, just send it to the Bitcoin pole.
And put that in the local school fund to help smooth the way for making it happen.
Or just, like the fund to get rid of some spiders. Because they need that.
They do need that in Australia.
The excess electricity will be channeled through this taser that electrocutes the local spider hive.
I don't get it. They also argued that to do it the other way might cause less people to adopt solar. But I think this would stop people from adopting solar.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have an incentive to send money to the grid. Like, I can't justify investing in this.
And you're going to get...
Which is probably what they want.
You're going to get charged. So either you manage that on your end. I don't even know if you can figure that out. Because you don't know peak times. Your power system... You have to have an Internet of Things device monitoring some government organization. But what if something like Texas happens? Could there be a crazy fluke where all of a sudden they're just charging you insane amounts for giving them energy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably, which, of course benefits them.
That just something is very, very wrong in Australia. There's not really an electricity traffic jam. I mean, don't they have smart meters now because they don't want people to physically come to your meter because that costs too much? Just have that. It's like the smart meter is like, oh, the grid doesn't want any extra power. Then don't collect it. Disconnect from the grid. Problem solved.
Yeah,
It's not that simple.
That might be true. I mean, we might, if you're some sort of person who understands the Australian power grid, please.
Why was the grid engineered to be so horrible in the beginning if it is actually this way? It seems like it's designed to fail.
It's tough. It really is difficult when you're looking at those schematics to have to build everything upside down. So you got to give them a little latitude there.
Well, I was going to say maybe if their infrastructure is anything like ours, it was built, 50, 60 years ago, and everything has changed so dramatically, and they just kind of keep like fiddling with it, and it's like, we should really redo this, but that takes too much money and effort, so we're just going to keep like doing these little stopgaps, and it's just snowballed at that point.
Krista, it's almost like you read the article, because they mention that if they were to just run more power poles, that would be a second way to mitigate this, but that's too expensive. So they're not going to do that.
Smart meters. If you have to have smart meters anyway, just do it that way.
Do you understand what's going on in this picture?
No clue.
This is the weirdest picture, and it's Getty Images. Maybe it's
image credits. Like this is supposed to be relevant, I guess. But
anyway, India. If you'll recall, WhatsApp changed their terms of service was it January? I think.
Yeah.
And the world was a little bit upset about that because they changed some of the rules, and a lot of people use WhatsApp, and they changed how your data can be shared with Facebook and stuff like that, and some countries weren't crazy about it. India seems to be the most upset.
India antitrust body orders investigation into WhatsApp privacy policy changes. Basically, this board in India has a problem with the take it or leave it privacy policy because it's not really a privacy policy, and the article kind of talks about that a little bit. It's functionality change from what people are used to because they're merging things together, and it was a take it or leave it thing, and the take it or leave it thing was a little bit of a delay because of the backlash that you were talking about, and so it's still take it or leave it, but it's also a change in functionality, and so this board, I guess, in India wants to fine them for that.
I don't think they're even doing it till May.
Yeah,
they're not enforcing it yet. So maybe the employee on the right is on a ladder, and the employee on the left is just super tall, and he's assisting him while he's on the ladder. I just can't explain this image.
Oh, it's weird.
They're going to put the light out as India plunges into darkness with the WhatsApp privacy policy changes. It's a little interpretive, I guess.
A little. Myanmar, they are still having that.
Pronounced it right.
Still having that political coup. I guess the coup technically is over. It's a military dictatorship at this point. And that military dictatorship has actually come out and said, we have no plans to turn mobile data back on. And the other internet, we'll see. But right now, we like how it is. So, for the first time, for many Myanmarians, they have to figure out alternatives.
The headline...
it's basically something about them
downloading free software,
finding ways around the block.
Yeah. So, dark times in Myanmar. Free software leads the way there for encryption, VPNs, and organizing. They're shooting a lot of innocent people. A lot of people are dying. It's not good. But technology is helping them bypass the blocks and also organize. So that's good, I guess.
So VPNs, Tor obviously is a big one. Some of the alternative messaging apps, stuff like that, are all ways that they're all of a sudden figuring out how to try to get around this. But like you say, if you get caught, that's a really high price to pay.
Yeah.
I probably would risk it. Would you?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, do I have any family anywhere else? Can I flee the country?
I bet you can't get on a plane.
Yeah, I mean...
You can maybe get across the land border, but that would be probably dangerous as well.
I also don't think they're a particularly rich country. So the average person's ability to just pick up and leave, probably not great.
You might be able to get away by boat, but then, what's within range of a boat? Probably not a lot of great options.
You could escape through the Suez Canal.
Oh, wait.
There's just one guy on a boat there, and he's like, I have to go. They're going to kill me.
Well, in Brazil... I think this one, considering the amount of time after it happened, don't you think this is just somebody's like, let's just get 2 million?
Yeah.
They won't argue with this at all.
The governor's mansion needs a new pool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Apple has been fined $2 million in Brazil for selling an iPhone 12 without a charger. Country doesn't buy Apple's environmental angle.
I don't either, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're saying that this runs afoul of some Brazilian law, and there's definitely some interpretation going on here. But again, it's $2 million. I think Tim Cook will just write that from his personal account. And in the memo on the check, he'll write annoyance. China is famously let Elon Musk come over there and become and operate in that country and build one of those factories in order to create Teslas for the Chinese market. But now, I guess they've had time to look at exactly how Teslas operate, and the Communist Party has said, I don't know.
China cracks down on the use of Tesla vehicles, citing privacy concerns. So this is the slippery slope, I think. Like, this is where it's like, okay, you want to ban Huawei, let's look at your Tesla vehicles, because they're basically, they've got all the telecommunications infrastructure. They phone home to Tesla. They have cameras inside and out. They have microphones inside and out. This was a great vehicle, pun intended, for spying on heads of state and any well-to-do people in China, if that's what you want to do, because it's a full remotely accessible computer system. All of the complaints that we in the U.S. would have against Huawei's communication systems would exist for products like this. It can only escalate the trade wars until eventually it's like you can't buy even an Apple iPhone because potentially same kind of things in China.
How upset do you think Elon Musk is about this on a scale from 1 to 10?
I would say probably about an 8.
Yeah.
Now, you have to be a government employee or a part of the military to get banned from this. But don't you think, considering the social structure in China, if you're a young up-and-comer who wants to succeed in any kind of business or possibly someday get one of those government or military jobs, do you fear that Tesla ownership will be a mark on your record?
Yeah, on your social credit score.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it from the other side, which is to weaponize this. It's like if you think somebody is a secret agent for the CCP, give them a Tesla. It's like, here, would you like to accept your free Tesla? No?
They'll just give it to the party, and the party will sell it. You know what Musk should do? Here's the PR campaign that Musk isn't smart enough to kick off, and also doesn't have the balls to do because they'd probably kill him. Free Teslas, like the leases that come back in, and you refurb them, give them to Uyghurs. It's cash for. I got to think about the name for that. It would be a great feel-good campaign in the U.S., but it would ruin his chances in China. Slack is more and more becoming cornerstone for businesses because people aren't in the same building anymore, and they keep adding new features. A lot of the Zoom and Teams and all that, they keep adding new features. They want to be the best, but they might not have thought this one all the way through.
Slack reverses course on a feature that could have been used to harass. So basically, everybody can use Slack now. Somebody that subscribes to Slack can invite somebody that doesn't subscribe to Slack. But it turns out spammers can use that feature, and then you're just you have this ephemeral Slack entry that there's nothing you can do about, and yay, spammers.
And you can't opt out of it.
Yeah.
You can't cancel it. Google Calendar. I don't know if they fixed it yet, but for a long time there,
yeah, it's been fixed.
If you tag somebody in a Google Calendar entry, it will put that Google Calendar entry in their calendar without asking.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of Russian entries.
Yeah.
A lot of links.
A lot of people did, yeah.
So same kind of thing. You got to think the worst case scenario through. That's like when you build a website and you're thinking, let's just give them a prompt and they can put in their email and we'll tell them something about what's it. No, you can't do that. You can't let people check and see if that email is registered on your website because they'll use that for evil. You're a big Twitter user.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this feature to you?
I don't even care.
So let's be 0.
Yeah.
Do you think this would be would it show up on the original tweet, or would it be a response that's just this?
No,
'Cause that would be such clutter.
I think it's going to be just a cluttered row of icons because Discord does this.
And I hate it.
Yeah.
And so does Facebook. I mean, Facebook does the exact same thing. And it is just a little row underneath with your other stuff. And then it's just like random icons.
And there are people in Discord who will spam emojis just compulsively. And it's like, you're not even adding to the conversation. This is meaningless.
It's like Twitch chat.
You're only allowed to have one emotion, Ryan, and that's heart.
Can I get negative heart at least?
Twitter is exploring the use of Facebook-style emoji reactions. So you can heart or retweet, I guess, but then you could also unheart.
They had a screenshot of what they thought it would look like down here.
You know, mind-exploding emoji.
They're
That's a
pretty
good one.
small. Fire. That'd be the only one I'd ever use, is the fire one. Everything's fire.
I think these are. They have. So, oh no, there's a sad one. Okay, I was gonna say Facebook has the crying one, and I see that one a lot.
Yeah,
people
when
post
Crying
something
with laughter,
sad.
you mean?
When somebody-
Oh,
No, they've got both. They've got the sad one and the crying with laughter one.
Yeah, I don't really know how to engage on social media when somebody posts something that's just completely horrific, and it's like, I want you to know that I commiserate with you, but I'm not clicking the like button.
Yeah, like's not really the right. So I understand maybe you do want the sad face, but it's also kind of like, is that what we're reducing human interaction to?
Yes.
It just feels weird.
Reducing. I think it's a past tense at this point, Krista. We're
Yeah.
there. It's just that more and more people are adopting this mad new way of communicating.
Well, here's the thing that will really cook your noodle. We've already progressed past the point where, words have a universal meaning. And so there is kind of more truth into the very simple, which one of these 5 reaction emojis are you, versus using words.
Did somebody write a book about that?
Yeah. It was the thing that precipitated the fall of society.
Well, if that, what was the phrase you used? Boiled your noodle?
Yeah.
If that boiled your noodle, this should reduce it to ash.
Twitter
It's a good
boss
one.
Jack Dorsey tweeted his first tweet has sold for $2.9 million as an NFT. So I misunderstood when this was happening. I thought that he was selling the rights to the content of his first tweet. But his literal first tweet was, "This is my first tweet." And that is what he has sold for $2.9 million. Not the right to post a tweet, but just the literal, this is my first tweet. That's
Hello
it.
world.
Yeah.
He sold Hello World.
Text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not even a file.
Yeah.
Just this ephemeral idea of ownership. This is really catching on. Did you see there was another huge online real estate transaction, bigger than the last one we talked about? The last one was like 500 million.
Yeah.
Or 500,000. At the same time, I'm worried that this is going to become a huge thing, and we're going to live in this crazy world.
The only way this makes sense to me is like, suppose that it's the Renaissance, and you want it to be like a patron of Michelangelo, and Michelangelo is like, I'm working on a new piece of art, and I'm looking for patrons for my new piece of art. Would you like this non-fungible token that serves as a commemoration of you being a part of my next artwork? And people were like, yes, Michelangelo, here, I will be a patron of the arts. Then NFTs make sense to me, but this doesn't.
But a lot of those guys, maybe they weren't aiming for this, but they got it. And if you had sold them this, I think they would have given you more money. Some of their wives, who were pretty average, let's face it, are hanging in museums now. And they will for the rest of human history unless something terrible happens. Just some random merchant's wife. That's never going to happen with NFTs.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, how could it? Maybe some kind of online thing, but who's going to go, you know what? I'm going to have a fulfilling day of going and looking at the first tweet ever. But you can already look at the first tweet ever. It's still there.
The year is 2783. Computer, show me the peak of artwork in 2021, and it's like, what am I looking at here, computer? And it's like, oh, this is a non-fungible token of somebody's moldy bread.
I don't fully understand it.
Yeah, most people don't. But you could say the same thing about cryptocurrency, right? It's not real.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really necessarily have inherent value, but look where we are.
Wasn't there another book that like had, top examples of art in the Roman Empire leading up to the Roman collapse, and like right before the collapse it was just like stick figures and drawings and stuff, and in the beginning it was like elaborate marble statues.
You see that most severely as the Roman Empire receded. Like they came into Britain and everything was really good for a while, and they were like, all right, we're out. And the church took over, and it's the Dark Ages. So
non-fungible tokens is the herald of the coming Dark Age.
BTCE, somebody has apparently sold or stolen the database at this point.
Wow.
So I got several emails, and I was like, hey, remember that Bitcoin you had with us? We've recovered it. Just send us 10% of that to this address, and we'll go ahead and get it to you. But here's the thing that drove me crazy about it. 0.39. I had $20,000 worth of Bitcoin. It wasn't that then, and when it went down, I was like, it's not a big deal. It was $20,000.
If only you could get that back.
I don't think I'm going to send
Bitcoin
them the 10%.
Yeah.
Well, it fell. It's 53.
Oh, gosh.
Wasn't it like 58?
So it's only worth 18. I only lost $18,000.
Well,
It feels so much better.
it does feel sort of random, doesn't it?
You know who doesn't feel any better? Actually, he probably doesn't care. I can't imagine this registered one tiny bit of emotion with this man, because it's all about getting those clicks. And how do you get those clicks? Well, one of the ways that you get those clicks is that you mine every part of a person's profile. And if it doesn't already exist, just have the bots create it, right?
Facebook has been auto-generating pages for white supremacists. Facebook's efforts to combat extremism remain at odds with engagement goals. I'm not one to defend Facebook here, but this headline could have been any inflammatory thing. This article is itself the thing that, it's written for engagement goals, which is kind of an irony here. So I'm not defending Facebook or anything.
White supremacists could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a funny thing. When the thing that they give here, the example, is that when you fill out your employer. So some people are filling out their employer as white supremacist organizations. I guess maybe they do employ people, right? But if you do that, Facebook, if it doesn't already have a page for that thing, it will automatically create it. Because it's like, we need a page for this employer. And that's not good.
Facebook really gets angry if you don't fill out your profile too, because I don't have anything filled out on mine. It's always like, are you sure you don't want to add this stuff? And I'm like, no, that's fine.
Well, now you know the hack, Krista. Just say that you're employed by the Klan.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So if someone did come across my profile, they'd be like, wait, what?
I don't know what a Klan girl looks like necessarily, but I don't think you'd match up, Krista.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Let's make sure that Krista's still animated. What do we do with Krista? Oh, yeah. Looking good. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
Not frozen this week.
Well, we learned during the election we didn't really learn where the lines were, but we learned somewhat about the process of how Facebook draws the lines. What's okay? When do we block? When do we not block? And there was a lot of controversy. So this is another one that seems kind of weird, but I wouldn't want to be on the team that has to make this decision.
Yeah.
Facebook guidelines allow users to call for death of public figures. Not hyperbolically.
I recognize two of those people.
I don't know who any of those people are.
And I wish I didn't.
You
know who they are.
Yeah, I do. Actually.
Yeah.
So, I don't know who decides whether or not you're a public figure. Is this part of you think the Facebook Supreme Court weighs in on that?
Would we be considered public figures?
Probably.
Z-list.
A good lawyer could probably make that argument. I would say, Your Honor, look at my Twitter followers. I don't have any. So they're saying that if you are a public figure, you can't message them and tell them that you want them to die. But you can just post a line saying that you wish they would die. You can't say that you're going to kill them.
Yeah, you can't threaten them.
But you can say that you wish they were dead. I don't wish that the royals were dead, but I wish I'd never had to hear about them again. And if there was only one way to do that, well...
Do you think, and I'm sure our British viewers are going to be like, rah, 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 but like, do you think after the Queen passes away, will anyone really be okay with Charles being king, or do you think they'll be like, you know what, let's just get rid of this?
There is talk of just, retiring the monarchy.
That's a tough one, though, because a lot of people are going to lose a really cushy income if you do that. And I'm not just talking about the royal family. I mean, there's so much supporting infrastructure around them.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people make the tourism, thing like, oh, they bring in a lot of tourists, which
they
is
didn't
probably
this
true,
year.
But yeah. And it's like, is that really worth having those people just,
No.
around? I don't think so, but, maybe if you're British, you can tell us what you think.
But also, I think the thing that's going to destroy them is the Markle thing.
Yeah.
It's a public relations nightmare.
Yeah. People just don't like... I watched The Crown, and I didn't really like Charles before, but I really disliked him after watching The Crown. That just came out this year as well. Like the new season with the Diana stuff.
I suppose the Queen has some likability because she's so feisty, zesty,
Well,
and she has such a history. Yeah.
Yeah. She represents the history of the nation, but it's like, I mean, when she passes, does anyone really care?
I don't care now.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the whole idea of a monarchy anyway, so who am I? I'm also not an Instagram user, but I don't think I need to be an Instagram user to know that this is going to fail. Because here's the secret, folks. Most people apparently don't remember being a kid. When you were a kid, weren't you eager to consume the same things that adults were consuming?
I don't know. Club Penguin was kind of a lot of fun.
But what? Okay, young Wendell, under 13. Yeah, under 13. You'd be well under 13.
I got in a lot of trouble for that first BBS pizza meetup because everybody was like 30-something and they were super uncomfortable.
But so, take young Wendell and let's move him into the current year, right? Young Wendell can join one of two Instagrams.
I'm not joining the other one.
He can join the young person Instagram.
No.
Or he can join the Instagram with David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
William Shatner.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
All these computer science guys.
Yeah.
Richard Stallman. You're not going to do it.
No, there's no way. Facebook is building an Instagram for kids under the age of 13. We have identified youth work as a priority for Instagram and have added it to our H1 priority list, reads an internal Instagram post obtained by BuzzFeed News. Yeah, no, a lot of bulletin board systems required you to be over the age of 18, and I definitely wasn't even anywhere near the age of 18 at the time.
There's several people in our Twitch channel that are lying about that as well, because you're supposed to be 18 there. But yeah.
Can you even do this in like Europe? Don't they have rules that's like you can't have kids on, be data mining children?
Well, I think what they're claiming is they're going to operate this differently to get around all that. I
kind of don't believe them, though.
Why wouldn't you believe them, Krista? Is there anything about their past behavior that would make you think that? But yeah, and also when you turn 14, does this transfer?
Did you just immediately get pushed into the world of adult social media?
I think we have to have, some sort of online identity card, an online ID, if you will, and you're in the walled garden if you can't do stuff.
But the other argument, so one argument is kids don't want to be in the kids' Instagram. But you know who does want to be in the kids' Instagram?
Yeah.
All the wrong people that should not be in the kids' Instagram. Yeah. That's the other problem with it. That's
already a problem on Instagram.
Yeah.
So many creeps.
So that's a terrible idea. If you have kids, please don't put them on Instagram for kids. Although, good luck stopping it.
Yeah.
And we talked about Twitter earlier. Going back to the election, of course, all the social media companies had to make these decisions about whether or not to allow free speech or to kowtow to Orange Man Bad. And Twitter especially took a lot of flack for this. So now they're saying, you know what, we don't even know. I mean, Myanmar, what are you doing in Myanmar?
Worry that you're not going to wake up tomorrow.
But I mean, if you're Twitter, you're not over there. You just do you let the new military, is it junta?
Yeah, I think it's like the Japan thing where you just sort of sit back and say, okay, we'll take that under advisement and just wait to see how it shakes out.
Well, that's kind of what they're doing. They're saying, well, why don't you tell us what we should do? We don't know.
Twitter asks, when should we cut off rule-breaking world leaders? So they're putting out a thing to the users, and it's like, hey, you can build your own user community. It's a difficult thing. I think this is probably the least bad thing that they could do.
But I would still argue, even let's go back to the prime example, and I won't say his name because we'll probably get demonetized, but it was that Austrian fellow. Would you not want him tweeting so that you have an idea of where he is right now, what he's thinking? Like, you can sort of read his moves, and maybe he'll fake you out, but you still have that's back to the Sun Tzu thing.
Yeah,
you want all the information that you can get about your enemies, so why silence them?
But
unless you're the enemy.
Ideally, wouldn't you treat all your users the same? I mean, I guess they don't do that, but like, if there's a rule, it should apply to all your users equally. In theory.
Ideally, but no, they're not going to do that.
Obviously, that's not happening, but
although with the Trump thing, to be fair, they were applying the rules that they had not applied to him previously because he was president. So in a way, they were doing what you say, Krista. Because they did violate their terms.
I agree with this up to the point that it demands the creation of a ministry of truth to decide the gray area.
But that's already in the works.
Yeah, I know, and that's going to be a problem. Because like some of these things is like you and I have read vastly different news sources. And then it's like, okay, well, what are the facts? And then you dig in and you actually get the facts, and it's like, they were all lying. All of them were being dishonest.
Or you go to Snopes and PolitiFact, and you're like, wait a minute. This is also slanted.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I suppose we will see what they do. I don't think they're going to cut... Jinping's not on Twitter, is he? Or is he?
I don't think
No.
so.
Here's the engagement challenge. Who would be the next one, other than Myanmar? I don't know those guys' names. But who would be the next one on the chopping block? Turkey?
Yeah, probably.
Erdogan?
Yeah.
We'll see. Let's do a Turkey or Erdogan Twitter death watch.
We've got a ton of content this week, too. So
Krista, was that a metal bowl?
What?
There was a bowl in the background or something.
Oh, no. It put it down. Did you guys not hear? So the whole episode, and I was trying not to draw attention to it, but like I could maybe hear it. There's a kid next door who's got a dirt bike, and it is loud as hell. And he was riding it up and down his little track back there.
Oh, we'll hear.
I don't think the mic picked it up, but
I didn't hear anything.
We'll hear in the engagement challenge if anybody heard that.
Yeah.
And or is wigging out.
Yeah, sorry, I can't really control the kid riding his dirt bike.
You should get a dirt bike, Krista.
I should get a louder one and then rev it at the end of the driveway and look at that little 7-year-old kid and be like, yeah, let's go.
All right. I don't know what it is tomorrow. It's business and it's the short one. I think it's business and security.
So many videos. Watch our videos.
Oh, we're doing a Q&A as well. I posted it literally right before we started recording. If you have questions for us, go check it out on the forum or tweet us.
Do we know when we're doing that?
I figured we'd record it sometime early April, but don't know date yet. But you've got some time. If you have questions, post them, and we will try to answer.
All right. Give us a dirt bike goodbye, Krista.
Bye! Hello, everybody. We're back. No dirt bike. Today is the 30th, and we're doing business and security. Oh, and there's a crisp...
Brought to you by Coke.
Oh, was it a Coke? I was going to say a refreshing Sprite. It sounded like a Sprite.
And here with all this Intel bling, you thought we were sponsored by Intel, but no, it was not to be.
Why have you switched from orange soda to Coke?
I don't like my kidneys, and I want to punish them.
Oh. You got to get on that sparkling water life. Static
just
water.
Regular water.
No, static water is where it's at.
The supply chain for my diet orange soda has failed. It's been on the grocery list. a few times, and they just never brought it. And I don't know. I don't know if it's still on the list, but there was like 6 months there where it just never came.
Meijer is
There were aluminum shortages for a while, or at least that's what I heard, and so they couldn't get cans.
Meijer is back to being 100% out of the cat food that I buy. For 3 weeks now, they have had no cat food. Luckily, I'm a bit of a stockpiler when it comes to that, but we're down to the fumes at this point.
Are they still eating greenies all the time?
Oh yeah, greenies are a staple. Well, you talk about the supply chain, and the supply chain is damaging to most companies right now, but in some ways, I think Intel might have snuck one past us here. Because if this were any other time, and you looked at this chip release, you would say, nobody's going to buy that. But now,
maybe.
I think probably everybody will buy this if they can get it.
The Intel Core i7 11700K review blasting off with Rocket Lake. So this is an Anantech review. You've probably already seen it if you're interested in technology, but yeah, more stuff is launching. I don't know. Check our channel for more stuff. And I'm not giving you any specifics or anything like that. This was actually early. So Intel accidentally allowed these to be sold in Europe ahead of their actual launch. Whoops. So this is an early review with like early BIOS and early whatever. These are 14 nanometer chips that were designed for a 10 nanometer process, but Intel couldn't execute on their 10 nanometer thing. They got a new CEO as a result of their problems, and he made some big announcements this week.
And one of them echoes back to America first. Here we are. Wonder how long this was in the plans. But we need it, but can it be profitable? That's the question.
With the taxpayer subsidies, yes, it can. CNBC reports Intel is spending $20 billion to build 2 new chip plants in Arizona. And don't forget, TSMC is also going to build some stuff, and maybe Samsung. So $20 billion, it's going to be like 20,000 jobs, depending on how you count. Krista, out in wherever, Arizona.
Krista, there's a resort. Swap the next 2 stories.
Oh, no.
Okay. So, yeah, Intel cannot get the small transistors. They have failed spectacularly for a very, very long time, and they're having to rethink everything. Normally, they are monolithic. They do it themselves. They're one of the few companies that do that. But now, they're saying, maybe.
Those fabs aren't going to be online until 2025 either. But Tom's Hardware also reports that Intel plans to outsource some key CPU production for 2023 chips to TSMC. So Intel has actually bought a lot of capacity from TSMC since the dawn of time, but not for processors, mostly. I mean, that's mostly true. Most of the stuff that they bought from TSMC were things like for chipsets and modems and other stuff that Intel does. But yeah, CPUs also for 2023. So, and those fabs won't be online until 2025. So it's going to be glorious. Like when Intel, like the full might of Intel, spending money like there's no tomorrow on next generation processes and technology. It's going to be a sight to behold. But
you don't know that.
But not today.
I mean, well, it could be a tragedy.
Well, the last time it happened, it was a sight to behold.
We'll see, I suppose. Something that might be a sight to behold is this new product. I like to imagine that they were in the, R&D room having their weekly meeting. I was like, we got to come up with a new gimmick. What do we got? And the guy who came up with the folding phone, he was, like sitting quietly. Bob, what do you got? You took ours last year. And he's like, folded again? I don't know.
Samsung is reportedly working on a double folding phone. So it'll fold in thirds, and it unfolds into something really big. There were phones like this, or portable computing devices like this in the Westworld TV series, and they were really thin and light and fun, and I wonder if that's what's driven some of this.
I don't think that show was that popular.
How long before we get like origami phones where it's like, this one turns into a swan?
The meme. You remember the AMD more cores gesture meme? We need that, but it's now more folds.
I can see a really fancy restaurant. You sit down and there's an origami swan on your plate, and you unfold it, and it's the digital menu, and you order.
An e-paper menu where it's like glitched out a little bit because it's been folded.
We just found like a
times.
very niche area for that to work in.
But that would be huge. They would probably wouldn't work half the time and they'd be all slimy and greasy.
Ooh, yeah.
But they'd keep using them because they spent a lot of money on that.
Let's get dessert, and the person licks their fingers and starts swiping.
Yeah. And this is a headline that, again, any other time, you'd be like, oh, man, this is exciting, but this is just another chip that we won't be getting. Although I don't think that we were going to get this in the foreseeable future
this is
anyway.
for Facebook and Amazon.
Yeah. Although they do say that eventually this will be massive for gaming.
Samsung's 512 gigabit DDR5 module is a showcase for the future of RAM. Well, I guess it's 512 gigabyte DDR5 DIMM, but the chip itself is 16 gigabit. And you can put a crap load of them on a DIMM to get a total of 512 gigabytes of capacity per DIMM. It's DDR5 too, so like 71 gigabytes per second. Nice.
Not yet. Be patient. Wait for them to dig a new canal. We can get some.
Yeah, the global supply chain. There was it's from Star Trek, but like the Ferengi thing is like the great commercial link. It's like the great commercial link on Earth is breaking down. We can't even. It's like, why is this thing late? It's like, oh, because we didn't have any toilet paper, and because we didn't have any toilet paper, everybody got sick, and then the factory shut down, and then we couldn't make widgets to ship them. You know, I don't know.
But it goes back to something even sillier than we ran out of toilet paper. There was a bat.
Yeah. Some guy ate a bat, and now I can't go out of my house.
The first split on that flowchart is there a bat? Amazon has a lot of PR issues, and I think a lot of this stems from the unionizing, which is maybe going to happen in Alabama, and they're doing everything they can to try and discourage that and to try to dispel these rumors, because when I say something about Amazon factories, there's one image that comes to almost everyone's mind, or at least if you've read a lot about it. Krista, what is it?
Peeing in bottles.
It's the pee bottle. Yeah. So when you think about
pooping in driveways was the other one that I was thinking of, but
There's a Ring video of that.
yeah,
how is that related to Amazon?
That was an Amazon driver.
that was Amazon. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Pelosi.
No.
Oh, okay. But when I think about pee bottles, I think about the neat community, right? 4chan. I think about truckers, and I think about Amazon workers.
Sorry,
Right.
Amazon workers.
And Amazon is not too keen on that last comparison. They don't like being in that group.
Amazon's denial of workers urinating in bottles puts the P in a PR fiasco. Bravo, excellent
Luke
work
O'Neill. Good
on
job,
the headline. So yeah, it's Twitter. It's like, oh, you don't actually believe that, do you? And then there were replies with pictures and memos and things where it was like, you know, this is like the 9th time we found a pee bottle in the delivery van. Please stop.
There's even an author who went undercover for, I think, 3 months and worked in an Amazon warehouse and then wrote a book about it. And he's like, here's my pee bottle. It was necessary.
I like this article sort of explains this as like, you know, your abuser, or like, you know, as like a battered wife. It's like, oh, if I was, you know, so abusive, then she would leave me, right? And there's some truth to that. I mean, this is a very difficult situation and time for a lot of people. And if Amazon is an easy place that is relatively stable, you know, depending on what your personal circumstances are, being asked to pee in a bottle might not be completely unreasonable from your point of view. But that doesn't mean it's okay for it to exist.
If she doesn't want me to hit her, why doesn't she listen?
The options are I make minimum wage at the grocery store, or I can go work at Amazon and just not pee and destroy my kidneys, but I can afford my rent. I guess I'll go work at Amazon. Those are your two choices. Also, I like the last line of this article. Bezos' Washington, D.C. mansion has been reported to have 25 bathrooms for his own use.
You think he just uses a different
cool
one every day to make sure they're all getting cleaned? So here's my question about this, though. What did you think they thought the reaction was going to be to that tweet? Did they think it was going to be successful?
I think that they think that they've hired a PR firm with like, you know, Bernaysian levels of skill, when in fact it's just a standard run-of-the-mill agency.
But see, even Bernays, I don't think he could operate in the modern information flow. It's a different game now. It's got to be played differently. But one thing, Amazon might suck at the PR game, but you know what they're really good at? Amazon basics. And you know why they're good at that? It's because they come up with products that they can make in China for a fraction of the price of anyone else. But how do they come up with those designs?
Watch a popular bag maker roast Amazon for ripping off its design in this clever video. So this is amazing. The video doesn't accuse Amazon of doing anything illegal, and in fact what Amazon did probably wasn't illegal. Unethical, sure, but illegal? Probably not. It's a genuinely funny and entertaining video, and also is like this behemoth of a machine that's powering, $1 trillion of value for Jeff Bezos. Does it really need to do this? Like, is this part of its normal MO? That's the more disturbing takeaway that you should have from this video, because the answer looks like yes. In fact, I think these bag maker people should get together with the tripod people that we covered a couple of weeks ago, where pretty much exactly the same thing played out with some people that had put together a really clever, awesome tripod design.
Now, these guys, like you say, they did a really good job, because not only they go through like feature by feature and show how they were ripped off, but they also describe how theirs is better in very believable ways. They're like, oh, yeah, you can't use this material here because this will happen. That's why we use this other material. And you're looking at that Amazon Basic and you're thinking, that's going to go quick.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where I avoid Amazon Basic stuff, especially if it's electronic.
Yeah.
I can attest that the Amazon Basics DisplayPort cables are about as good as wadded up aluminum foil.
Yeah. But cheap. Buy a new one every week.
Which is what they want.
Now, we use Discord for our Twitch streams when we want to communicate, and I got to say, it has been pretty hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's not great. We've actually been thinking about looking at an alternative, and this headline makes me think we should look harder.
Microsoft is in talks to buy Discord for more than $10 billion. So immediately your mind should go to, how are they going to recover their $10 billion investment immediately after they get their hands on it? And none of the possibilities are pretty.
Are good.
Now, they do have that Discord premium tier. I don't know what that does. Do you?
It lets you use emotes. So, like, say if I wanted to use the Team PGP channel emotes in, like, my private Discord channel, you'd be able to do that.
Is that it?
Pretty much.
I don't know if that's it, but that seems to be the one that they advertise the most.
But they mentioned that Microsoft, based on what they've done recently, Microsoft actually just put a huge portion of the EA catalog into their Xbox Live service. And I gotta say, I was like, you know what? I want to play the Star Wars Squadrons game, but I don't want to play it multiplayer. I only want to play single player, and I understand that single player is very short, so I'm not willing to pay any amount of money for that. But then they gave it to me, and I was like, oh, I guess that's added value.
I pulled up Discord just so we could find out what the Turbo offers. More emoji power, which is the thing I talked about. You get a personalized profile. You can rep your status by having an extra icon next to your name.
That's huge.
Bigger uploads. That is actually kind of nice if you do a lot of photos. An HD video.
What's the video now? 480? Do we not consider 720 to be
source
HD?
resolution up to 60 FPS screen share.
Oh, it's 4K. Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready to upgrade? No, I just wanted to look at it.
Yeah, I'm not ready. But some people are saying that if they put that in the Microsoft subscription basket with all the other stuff, and you've already got it, you're not going to use an alternative. You're just going to be like, oh, I've already got Discord. I'll just use Discord.
Yeah.
So like maybe that's
kind of true.
I also look forward to the possible future where they combine it with Teams somehow, and then it's just
Please
like
no. Two terrible products merging together.
You know what really makes Teams seem a lot more amazing than it is? If you've ever had to use Skype for business.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I hate Skype more than anything else in the world.
It's just like, they got halfway through and they were like, surprise, we're done. Moving on.
Well, yeah, they got halfway through and then they did Teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also half done.
But Teams has Bummer Burt, which is like a custom sticker pack, and that's 100% worth it. So.
How much would you pay for that?
Literally nothing, because I can use them for free right now.
But what if you couldn't?
It would be disappointing.
How perverse would it be if there were paid emojis? So like when your CEO is talking to you on Teams and and you want to have like, the poop emoji reaction, you have to pay $1 for that.
Isn't that Reddit's business model?
Yeah, I mean, basically.
I mean, Twitch, yeah.
No,
But
the little
you're
things on
you're
Reddit.
gunning for a promotion, and you have to like have the certain emoji so he knows that you're committed. So you have to pay to play.
Thanks for the gold, stranger.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or Reddit Silver, which doesn't involve actual money.
I purposely left out the Reddit controversy this week because
Who cares?
well, I care, but how can we? Do you know what it is?
Uh-huh.
You've not been following that? Oh, we got
I
a
kinda have
conversation
followed
to
it.
have after we're done here.
Yeah.
But I was amazed when I was reading that, and there would be a comment that's like, I can't believe that Reddit got away with this. This should be criminal. Oh my God, they should all be destroyed. And someone would give that gold. And it's like, what? You just gave them money. To agree with the comment that they should be destroyed, you just paid them. What's the thought process there? Anyway, speaking of Discord, we are all trapped in these Zoom, Discord, Teams worlds right now because many people are working from home. And week after week, we see more and more. Who was it last week? Was it Salesforce that canceled their whole building?
Oh, yeah. Salesforce.
Yeah, Salesforce.
And we see a lot of those headlines. But here we see one in the opposite direction.
Major employers scrap plans to cut back on offices, KPMG. So,
I think this is in Australia.
but it's Reuters. And the picture makes me think, London? I don't know why.
Oh, City of London. It's not in Australia. So yeah, there's just people who are saying that only 17% are now saying they're going to cut back.
My mom is obsessed with some kind of like London real estate program. And I think the difference here might be that, in the real estate program, it's like, this was, a villager in the 15th century left a cardboard box here. And then somebody built a stone wall in the southmost, facing edge of the box. And now we've turned it into, a cozy villa for whatever. And it's going to sell for £400,000. And, I don't imagine that places like that would be very comfortable to also work from home. Like, they just seem very small and cramped. And so if it's like, hey, work from home also, a lot of people would probably be like, no, because I don't have that many square feet to begin with.
I don't understand. How does she interact with that? Is she trying to invest in something?
No, she just really likes watching, like,
like tiny home stuff? Or?
Oh, when you say program, you mean TV program?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was like trying to get involved in some sort of timeshare or something.
Yeah, I
Jesus,
too. I
man,
was
you
like,
got to put a stop to that.
No, I mean, sometimes the houses are normal, but, like, just, like, the cultural differences, it really is kind of fascinating because, like, some of the kitchens have, like, a walk-in chimney.
Yeah, because they've been there
Are you
for
watching
800
House Hunters
years.
International? Is that what that is?
I don't know what it is.
I bet that's what it is. Because there are episodes that take place in like other countries, and one of them is like when they do episodes in Italy, this couple will come over and they're like, we have like a $5 million budget. And the person will show them different houses, but it's always like, this is an abandoned villa from like the 1600s and there's no electricity, but we're going to charge you $2.5 million for it.
Yeah. It's and it's always there's always just bizarre things like this used to be a barn, the horses were downstairs and you sleep in the loft, and like they have the original rafters but they put plaster up and it's like, oh, this is, I mean, okay, but you're still kind of living in a barn.
Well, you don't want to do that the other way around.
Yeah, I guess
That'd
that's
be a lot of noise. I have cats upstairs, and let me tell you, that's bad. Well, this is the story of the day or the moment, I suppose you could say. And you think, well, how is this technology related? Well, maybe in the U.S. it won't affect us that much. But if you're in Europe, oh boy, the chip shortage just got so much worse.
Explainer: the Suez Canal block could hit product supply chains. So, is it still blocked at the time we're recording this?
Yes.
Wow.
There's a domain that's like, is the ship still there.com or something, and it just says yes.
And there's that great screenshot of one excavator.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, do they only have one excavator? This thing's the size of a city. You've got one excavator working on it. Maybe it's a union thing.
There's a picture that has some of the other, like a lot of the ship traffic is just being redirected around the Cape Horn, the southern tip of Africa, because that's how we roll now.
Well, that's the reason we have that canal.
Yeah.
I wonder if
You
there's.
think- Oh, you go.
Well, you think there's like a resupply or an outfitting port right on the tip of Africa that's just making a ton of money right now?
Yeah.
I bet, yeah.
What were you
I
gonna
was
say,
gonna,
Krista?
I was gonna say, I wonder if like when they designed this canal, I wonder if the designers were like, we should really widen this one section, and then
No.
there was some project manager who was like, what kind of idiot would ever get stuck there?
No,
We're
because
not
this
gonna waste the money to do that.
this is one of the largest ships in the world. They didn't even dream of this when that was built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ship building technology has far outpaced the canal maintenance technology. That's the issue here.
Wasn't it like $80 billion of products a day are prevented from going through there?
It's a ridiculous. I mean, it really does just shut
I
us
think it was
down.
96.
It's bananas.
Yeah, it's insane. But again, this is another bullet point in the whole supply chain thing. Like, we really, really have created a system that it's so fragile. So fragile. And perhaps another example of fragility is bank employees. Because there was I can't remember which one it was, but they just released this big report about how they're working 80-hour weeks or whatever. But I wonder, if you're a banker, what do you do for 80 hours?
Steal other people's money.
I think a lot of people would say that. But apparently it's weighing on them, and Citigroup is trying to think of ways to lessen the burden.
Citigroup CEO Jane Fraser calls for Zoom-free Fridays and a new bank holiday as the fatigue grows from the global situation. You know, I didn't think about it until I read this article, but I have noticed that a lot of the time when there is a call for a Zoom meeting on a Friday, it's usually because somebody has dropped the ball and they're giving you work, and they're going to pretend on Monday like you had all week to do the work that you talked about on Friday.
It seems like the bank wouldn't want to destroy that. Or maybe they're just trying to weed out the problems.
Well, it's definitely very stressful because, like, it's like, oh, you guys dropped the ball hardcore, at the end of the week, and it's like, is the expectation here that I'm going to work over the weekend to make up for your horrible thing that you did?
The other one is...
I told you about this Friday at 3:30 p.m. and why isn't it fixed Monday at 9 a.m.?
But you also want to do your Zooms in the afternoon, because if you do them in the morning, then there could be an expectation that something's done by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a much more common thing. Like, if I've just tallied up in my head, if that's a Friday morning, the chance that the expectation is that that's done by Friday end of day is probably about 5 times higher than any other day of the week.
It's almost like people are poor planners.
Awful, awful people. Shame on you.
Well, speaking of awful people, Tesla is accepting a new kind of payment. And the interesting thing here is not that they're going to take the money, but what they're going to do with it.
Tesla will accept Bitcoin as payment, Elon Musk says, according to the New York Times. The entire rest of the article, I'll save you the trouble of reading. They're not going to convert it into fiat. They're just going to hold it.
Which is risky. And they already have a massive, massive cache of Bitcoins. So,
1.5 billion.
Actually, this will all be a drop in the bucket compared to that. Probably won't even move the needle at all.
Yeah.
But he's betting big on it. And if it continues the way that it's going, he will win big from this bet.
Yeah. If he'd sold even one Tesla 10 years ago for Bitcoin, they would have way more than 1.5 billion now.
And if it doesn't work out, the company would crater probably pretty spectacularly, but he'll still be one of the richest people in the world. Because
He'll be fine, and
it's
that's
not
what
going to
matters.
affect him. Yeah. And Tesla continues to innovate. Is that the word that you use here?
I
No,
would not
it's-
use the word innovate.
It's not the word I would use. I would say that they continue to destroy a product that some people actually already seem to like with insane decisions. This is actually one of the big things in the sports car world, because the modern human, I'm gonna piss some of you off. The modern human cannot outshift a modern automatic transmission, like a double gearbox or dual clutch. You can't beat it. Sorry. So new design sports cars, not only are they all automatic, you can't get a stick shift, but the shifter's gone. They're using the dial now. And people are like, you're putting a dial on a GT500? What's wrong with you? And this is so much worse.
Here's how Tesla's new touchscreen drive selector works. And there's a Twitter video of somebody dragging the car backwards to put it in reverse on a touchscreen. And that just seems like peak stupid.
You can
Yeah.
kind of see, I think it's this right here.
What in the Twitter video, it's like halfway down that sidebar, but yeah.
And the idea here, and apparently he explained this to Joe Rogan. I don't listen to the Musk-Rogan podcast because I don't like him, but Rogan, you know how he is. He's constantly like interrupting. He's like, wait a minute. How can that possibly work? And Musk just kept reiterating, no, you let the car decide. The car decides when you back up or drive forward. And also, neutral is in a sub-menu. You have to open another menu.
Can I at least press and hold on the icon to get to neutral? I mean, come on.
And apparently this is supposed to be based on like what's in front of you and what's behind you. So the car, if there's nothing in front of you, the car just assumes you want to go forward. But what if you don't want to go forward? It's madness.
This is going to be one of those things where like some old person drives through a wall and then it's going to be like, I don't understand what happened.
But here's what I'm worried about. Are all the other car companies just like that big garish middle screen? Are they going to look at this and be like, oh, we need that.
Yes.
Let's do that right now.
See, also,
I kind of hate that because like when you're driving and it's like, oh, I just need to like turn off the air conditioning. Instead of just doing that with a dial, you're going to have to like sit and actually look at it.
yeah.
Do you
Awful.
think the UI is good enough to lock that control when you're in motion?
No.
But there's no transmission, so you could reverse those motors probably without damaging them in motion.
No, I would reverse it. That's just
the tires.
braking,
The tires
basically.
would be in a bad shape.
They have a lot of torque. I don't think they have that much torque.
Anybody with a Tesla, you should go try that.
Yeah.
Don't try that. Well, Theranos is one of my favorite stories. And after I watched a little bit of that documentary and heard her fake voice, I'm way more excited about it because she was so much crazier than I ever thought. And I kind of love it. And I'm kind of like super attracted to her because of it. But this one is a much more meme-worthy version of the same story.
SF poop testing startup, once compared to Theranos, is charged in a $60 million fraud scheme. So the idea here is like, oh yeah, we'll analyze your poop and tell you what's wrong with you. Don't worry, just mail it in. It's all good. They didn't do anything.
How crazy is it that at any given time, because they're not the only company that does this,
Yeah.
and when you see a UPS or a FedEx truck or something, there's probably poop in it.
Yeah.
Good chance. And I'm not even talking about in the driver's diaper.
No,
they're-
it's a bag. They use bags according to
'cause-
those documents.
Foreshadowing.
They're not allowed to stop, is the joke there. We talked about this one before, but he has returned. And of course, the naysayers will not allow that. And they have refocused their efforts. But he's now saying, no, I will not leave again. Is he holding a rabbit
Yes.
in this picture?
Yeah, this is a strange photo to have selected
great
by the
picture.
editor.
Free software advocates seek removal of Richard Stallman and the entire FSF board. Open letter signed by hundreds. RMS has no place in the free software community. There's just... We could talk for an hour about this, but I don't know. On the one hand, I don't think it's necessary for someone to have a perfect ideology in order to function. But on the other hand, like... You've seen the movie Rain Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if Rain Man was horribly racist? Like everything that he said, definitely something, and then something horribly racist.
In my mind, when I watch that movie, the canon is that he is super racist. He just
Okay.
doesn't talk about it.
So, you look at somebody, in the Rain Man movie, and it's like, it's very pitiable. That's how he is. And in some ways, he's very functional. But in other ways, he's unrecoverably unfunctional.
But here's the question. I think we talked about this last time when this first happened. Take that mental disability and go back over the history of Linux and take out everybody that contributed that has that mental disability.
There's nothing left.
Exactly. So is it better to be inclusive and woke, or is it better that the networks work?
And also, I mean, let's not pick on Linux here. Let's talk about modern rocketry or going to the moon. What is it you say? The wings of the Third Reich.
The V2s were very good rockets.
On the opposite side of that, though, like, how far are you willing to go to defend one person when how much other talent are you alienating because of that one person?
It is true that the other, in my opinion, the one of the big drawbacks of those kinds of communities, Linux in particular, is their obsession with certain individuals.
Right.
Yeah. Hero worship is a problem in every aspect of society.
I think open source is unique in that if you want to anonymously contribute, you can. Is it just the...
But sometimes your contributions are actually a weight on the project. I think this is a case where a lot of that's happening. Ideally, we would separate. But like, remember the Drupal thing?
Yeah.
That guy was just, what was he? He was like reading weird novels and tweeting about them. And they were like, oh, this novel has, I don't even remember what it was, like female slavery or something like that. Like, you got to go. So they're not allowing a separation. That's the point.
Yeah.
You can't clock out at the end of the day and go live your life without being under somebody's scrutiny.
We will never advance as a society because no one is perfect.
Yeah. I don't know. But he says he's sticking around. I don't know. What do you think? Think he'll be able to?
No, I don't think
weather
he'll be able to
this?
stick around.
No?
I think that ultimately it all ends up being a distraction. And it really is too bad because, I think that he's had some positive contributions to things, but at the same time, it's like, if you had certain expectations of Rain Man, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Why do you expect that from Rain Man? And I don't mean that in defense. That's not a defense or criticism. It's just, why do you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree?
But there is an argument to be made there of why is he in a position of leadership?
Yes.
Why not just let him be a monkey that's working on the code?
I guess I would feel differently if it was, the RMS battered women's shelter. I probably would feel differently. It's probably not a good...
How many women have tried to make a contribution and then it's like, oh, I've just had, this horrible experience. Screw this. I'm not going to contribute anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid concern.
And I think the last time we talked about this, we have definitely, and this, I know I'm not taking her word for it. Wendell and I have both seen Krista be treated very different.
Yeah,
very,
in
very
these
different
kinds of situations.
And kind of horrifying too, because it's like, look how amazing this is, and they're like, we're not even going to look at that because of where it came from, and it's like, you did what now? It's really
or there have been times where it's like, that's great, and then they find out it was from me, and then it's like, oh, never mind, we don't want it. And it's like, oh, okay, is that how we're going to do things now? And I don't want that situation to be repeated for other people.
I wouldn't have believed it's as bad as it is, but having actually witnessed that, it is actually really sort of bad.
Yeah. And that holds back the technology as a whole when you have people who are boxed out like that. There are definitely people who take it too far, but like, everyone benefits if everyone gets to contribute.
What if we switch open source contributions to just a hash?
Yeah, I would be all for that.
Yeah, that would probably be great. That's the same reason I don't talk on voice chat in Overwatch, because people are more likely to listen to your callouts if they don't hear your voice.
Oh, Krista, you got to do the Theranos voice.
Yeah,
that's what it's for.
Well, we talked about that a few weeks ago too, where I was like, I kind of get why she did it. Like, I mean, it's stupid, but I get why she did it.
Wow, this D3 D9 committer is amazing. This code is just unbelievable.
But somebody would start putting political stuff in their comments.
Yeah,
they would ruin it.
It's just,
or not putting, or they would name a variable something that would become a big thing.
Yeah,
like, we're never going to fix this.
That's definitely one of the fallacies with genius is that if you have somebody who is a genius with something and you ask them about something else, they will invariably give your opinion on that, even though it might be horribly misinformed or just a horrible opinion in general. It's like they don't understand.
But there's also always going to be people who are just looking to tear that down.
Yeah.
To make a name for themselves in other ways.
Or worse, there are people that recognize that flaw, the Rain Man person, and they'll get entertainment from baiting the Rain Man person into saying something really horrible when they didn't mean it really as horribly as it sounds, because they're just broken.
Or they know They're like, let's say somebody has a compulsion for solving problems, and they know that, so they take advantage of that and constantly bring their problems, knowing that there'll be a solution immediately.
I've never experienced that. Sorry.
Well, the chip shortage affects us all, and it's terrible. It really is a depressing thing because there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. But what you might not know, as being someone who watches this program, I don't imagine these two worlds cross over too often. But that's not the only thing that people are competing for online.
Rare sneakers, bots, and insider connections. So this scandal has it all. So this executive at Nike, her son was running a thing to flip sneakers. So you could buy certain rare sneakers and then I guess at auction or on the Nike website or whatever. Well, he had written bots to do that and was reselling them and making $20,000, $30,000 a month.
Wow.
Now, apparently, I don't know anything about the sneaker world. I've been wearing the same model of New Balance shoes for probably a decade at this point. I mean, I found a shoe, I'm sticking with it. But I got the impression reading this article, because they talked about like shoe drops, which is funny because the other shoe. But they're saying like if you didn't manage to get in on this limited drop because of the bots, you're being affected by this. But it's not, I mean, manufacturing sneakers is not like fabbing transistors. Can't you just make more? Aren't they artificially limiting the...
They are absolutely artificial. It's like a brand thing. Like, oh, you got to get the newest thing, and like they're only going to do a limited run, and
Peak consumerism.
yeah.
So shouldn't we be more angry? I mean, I know we're all angry at NVIDIA, but I think NVIDIA would probably sell us the chips if they could.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But this is...
that makes no sense.
I mean, it's just some leather and fabric. Just make more of them. But here's the other crazy thing about this. If you think this is some little niche thing, the number one increase in consumer shopping after the stimulus, this last round of stimulus, athletic footwear.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
People got to have them shoes.
I haven't spent any of my stimmy money.
I would think that like 3D printed shoes are almost a thing, and then at that point it's like the ultimate commodity. Like it just doesn't matter anymore.
I don't know if there's a pliant enough material yet. Is there?
For that, yeah, that would feel good on your foot.
Maybe do the soles.
No, you can. There are rubber like material that are just as flexible, maybe not as durable.
But you don't want a whole shoe made out of rubber. That's going to be pretty miserable.
Yeah.
If you're not spending your stimulus money on athletic shoes, maybe you'll spend it on getting back out to the theater. No, no one's doing that either. But it does seem like things are changing. I think now that the vaccine's rolling out, we're getting into this place where people are more likely to venture back out. And they're saying, you know all that stuff we said before? Forget it. Just forget all that.
Warner Brothers is going to return to theatrical releases in 2022, ending its HBO Max experiment. But it is going to be a shorter 45-day exclusivity window for theaters. We'll see how much they stick to this. I kind of doubt they will.
I think we'll probably never get back to the crowds that we had before.
No. I really doubt that too. Because why would you?
I don't know. I love paying $8 for a Kit Kat. I don't know about you. But
That's why you carry a big purse.
it makes me feel American.
I like going to a theater when there's hardly anybody else in the theater.
But then they lose money.
Yeah.
So that's
If
definitely...
you go to like a matinee, it'll be like that. There won't be anyone around. Night shows are almost never like that.
Also winter, because I can wear a jacket with my own snacks.
Oh, yeah,
That's
why
what
you
Chris
carry
is
the
saying
big
for the
purse.
purse. Cargo pants. Well, AT&T, this is kind of similar to the Apple tweet and the Amazon tweet about the pee bottles and stuff like that. It's just, it rings so false at this point.
Remember what we were discussing in the first episode, how the meaning of words has been lost, and that is society is going to collapse when that happens?
And HBO Max, as we were talking about with the theaters, is benefiting from something that California doesn't tolerate.
AT&T lies about California net neutrality law, claiming that it bans free data. AT&T is angry that it must stop charging HBO Max rivals for data cap exemptions. So if you got AT&T mobile service and you want to watch HBO Max, it doesn't count, or didn't count, towards your data cap. You know, your paltry probably 5 gigabytes per month. That's good for like 2 episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation in a month. I can't make it that long. That's no, it's terrible. So if you had HBO Max, AT&T didn't keep track of that as a quota. But if you had a competing service like Netflix, it still counted against your quota. You couldn't have it. So obviously they don't do that because of congestion or because it's a finite resource. They do that to make more money. And any argument otherwise is basically intellectually dishonest.
I don't think you need to qualify it with intellectually.
It's just dishonest.
Just straight
generally.
dishonest.
So AT&T's complaining. They're like, oh, it's free data with HBO Max, which is, you know, an incredible lie, because it completely changes the meaning of words. So frustrating.
There's a lot of that happening these days.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a problem. Well, I had a cracked tooth recently. I just got a crown put on it yesterday, and oh boy, that's expensive. And most of the time, I know in my mind, you know, somewhere I know the truth that our healthcare system is just,
it's pretty bad.
It's the worst thing that most Americans ever have to deal with. And I know that the insurance that I have is just absolute garbage, but I push it out of my mind. I don't think about it because it's too damaging. But then when you actually go to pay for a medical procedure and you're like, oh, wow,
Teeth are luxury bones.
They're not paying any of this, huh?
Teeth are luxury bones under most people's insurance policies.
Yeah.
Then you really have to remember how bad things are. And oh boy, are they bad. And we like to vilify the insurance companies, but the insurance companies are just one aspect of it, because the hospitals at this point are fully in on the scam.
How hospitals hide pricing data from web search results from the Wall Street Journal. So this is actually like the Becker's Hospital Review, but there's a lot to unpack here. But
well, this is just the paywall alternative.
My favorite thing from this was one of the healthcare executive people was like, "Oh yeah, the pricing's on there somewhere, but good luck finding it."
Yeah, so they're using various web tools to stop the crawlers from getting in there and finding the pricing data, and they're using those dark patterns that we talked about earlier to try and get you. So there is a legal requirement that these things must be posted, and they are. But if you don't have the direct URL that they sent to the regulators, you're probably never going to get it.
No.
It's even if you call them half the time and it's like, am I in network, and you know, what is a price for this particular thing? You know, they have no idea. No one at the hospital has any idea.
And they're probably, especially now, so overtasked and understaffed. And it's the same with all the big tech companies. You're never going to be able to talk to the person who can make it better.
There are several cases where it was like the hospital was in network and the doctor was in network, but the doctor's assistant was not in network. And it's like, how would you even know that? Like, how is that even a thing?
Well, it's printed on this website.
Yeah, or it's like the assistant and the doctor were in network, but the assistant was sick that day, so they had to bring in someone else, and they were out of network, so now you're screwed.
Yeah.
The doctor actually brought his dog to work that day, and his dog's out of network. So you should have checked that.
It's all just an elaborate scam. That's all it is.
That's how it feels.
And an effective one, unfortunately. Well, speaking of scams, or at least attacks, Acer has been hit by one, and this is probably going to cost them. It's going to cost them quite a bit of money.
Computer giant Acer is hit by a $50 million ransomware attack. So it looks like it was one of those exchange vulnerabilities we were mentioning. They didn't patch their exchange in time. Oh no.
That's a tough one if you're Acer.
Yeah.
You should really be doing better than that. How can I be confident in your products if your team doesn't know to do that?
Hopefully they got good backups.
We don't know yet if they're going to pay that. But $50 million. That's not huge for Acer, but it's going to hurt.
Yeah, that's the largest ransomware ever on record. So seems a little excessive, yeah.
And we talked earlier about how China is not super excited about their core people, their government and military employees driving Teslas. It's for this reason.
Tesla's in-car cameras raise privacy concerns, Consumer Reports. So before anybody wigs out about the whole, article saying, oh, it's just China overreacting, nobody would ever do that, blah, blah, blah. Consumer Reports, they're one of the most pro-consumer organizations that exist yet in America, and even they have concerns. What does that tell you?
So you might be saying, well, everybody's doing that, right? This is the distracted driving thing. It turns out that the other companies don't use cameras. They use other kinds of sensors, and when they do use a camera, it's never stored. Or at least they say. I mean, I don't know if we can trust that, but according to them, it's never stored. Tesla does not make that promise to you. Tesla has a camera on you, and that camera footage could go back to Tesla. Yeah. And they could use it, and they probably will use it to train the AI.
So much training.
So watch out for that. Make sure you put on your banana sticker before getting in your Tesla.
You get it, and it's like the AI is so bad that the airbag just immediately deploys, and it's like, oh, I thought you were killed. I'm sorry.
And if you're thinking that maybe it's like, well, okay, what could they possibly do with all that biometric data? How much could they really tell about what I'm up to with all these various sensors that they have? And this is a perfect illustration of how bad it can be.
Amazon delivery drivers forced to sign biometric consent form or lose job. The new cameras, which are being implemented nationwide, use artificial intelligence to access drivers' location, movement, and biometric data. So you're not going to be able to pee in the bottle anymore. You're going to have to just hold it until you explode. You can get sepsis from that.
Ugh.
Oh, you know what else can happen? This is one of the most horrific stories I've ever heard. It happened to the guy on the original host of Survivor, because he was on that island all day. He was like, I just held it in. And one day he woke up, couldn't go. It turns out the bladder is pretty elastic, but when it reaches the limit of its elasticity, there's no pressure anymore. So stuff's going in, but it can't squeeze together.
Did he have to have a catheter to get it out?
Yes, he had to have a catheter. Ooh, and he had to catheter himself once per day for months. Wow. Until that, not even once per day. At the first sign of pressure, you got to get it out because you're wanting things to shrink back down. Yeah. So he was just constantly, think about that.
Now imagine that if you're just like making the wage of an Amazon driver, you don't have health insurance, or if you do, it's probably pretty crappy. And then you have to do that. Oh. And how expensive that's going to be.
And that's your only alternative for a job. I mean,
it's pretty dark.
It's a really not a good sign for humanity marching forward into the future. Definitely not good.
Is there gonna be a future where, because of all this, it's socially acceptable for people to just walk around soaked in urine?
I don't think that'll ever be acceptable because of the smell.
No, it was that way for, until very recently. I mean, like I'm pretty sure.
You mean in the entire scope of history?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in Rome, it was like the sewage thing was basically making the road convex so that the sewage would flow to either side. And that was the sewage system.
Like in France with the chamber pots.
Yeah.
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 I don't think we should go back to that.
I don't think we should go back to that either.
I think there are a lot of health benefits from not doing that.
Yeah. Do you think the Amazon delivery vans will have some sort of like, space age apparatus like Jeff Bezos has given the company-wide thing, and it's like, look, we've got space toilets on the new vans, and it's like yes, it's like that looks like it's just a hose that I go into, and it's like exactly
that's just a wet dry vac,
but it dumps it on the highway as you're going.
What about the female employees? They could do a
composting toilet in the back, but they'd probably be like, oh, that takes up too much room for packages.
But plus, you're driving around in a hot van filled with compost.
Yeah, that wouldn't be ideal.
Maybe it'll be like Warhammer. Like the first Warhammer armor was actually just Amazon delivery vans.
Here it is. Here's the ultimate dream. For those of you who want a green company, Joe Biden will give you so much money for this. You come up with a type of cardboard that breaks down in human urine and becomes something useful. And then your Amazon driver, he'll bring your boxes and he's like, oh, do you have any boxes for me? And you take the old boxes back and he puts them in there and he pees on them. And then over time, that becomes a rich fertilizer slurry.
With a rich aroma to boot.
And then you have like Amazon landscaping. They use that.
That's a thing. People tell you to pee on your compost pile already.
Well, Krista, it sounds like you should start this company.
I don't want to do that. I'm struggling with my own little compost pile. I wouldn't make enough.
There is a company that makes a poop box, a biodegradable poop box that's got like a seed for a tree or something in it. So like when you poop in the box and you bury it in it.
Can't be a fruit tree, right, though? Because you're not supposed to eat stuff that was grown with human feces.
You have to have it break down a certain amount of time. It has to reach a certain temperature if you're going to use anything like actual feces or meat or anything like that.
Well, our Amazon, composter will do that. It'll heat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Off those electric batteries, off the new electric Amazon. They're green and yellow.
Oh.
All right, well,
Anyway.
That's all we got for today.
I went on a weird tangent.
It does most of the time.
Yeah.
Friday will be, what have we not done yet?
Nonsense and robot, right?
We haven't done robots.
Yeah.
Woo!
All right.
We will
See
see you guys then.
See ya.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Today is April 2nd. This weekend is Easter weekend, if you are prepared for that kind of thing, or I don't know, some of you guys may probably celebrate that.
Is that why the traffic is so crazy today?
Is it?
I don't know, but
why would it be crazy a week before?
Oh, it's next. Oh, okay.
Yeah, next friend. Yeah, we're doing robot and nonsense today. Happy Easter, though, for those of you who celebrate that.
Not a lot of crossovers between Easter and robots.
No, not many.
Well, let's talk about some... Wait a minute. This is not a robot article at all. Why did I put this here? Here's an article that doesn't have anything to do with the topic today.
I was sitting here trying to remember, and I was like, no, there's nothing.
Court sentenced men for pirating thousands of movies and TV shows, including via Plex.
I think I meant to put this in security because they rated these guys.
One of the people had shared his Plex password with 21 friends. Is that really what we've come down to?
This is...
Imagine having 21 friends, chat.
The reason that I added this one is because they went really far here, and not only... Like, these guys were seeding a little bit, but not on the level that you would expect. They're going after just downloaders now.
Yeah.
And handing them some pretty big fines.
It read to me like the disturbing thing, where it's like, you have shown up on our radar, and we're going to find any little thing that you're doing that's illegal and really just trump it up. Because 21, sharing your Plex server with 21 friends doesn't seem to me to be the kind of transgression that would warrant spending this kind of time and resource pursuing.
I imagine that the HBO Max team did the math there, and they figured out that was costing them like $20,000 a day.
Yeah. Those 21 people should be spending at least $5,000 a month each on that content.
So, watch out. That was in Europe. Was it Denmark?
Denmark.
Yeah, Denmark.
Yeah. Which is weird because in the past, they've been some of the most tolerant for that kind of thing.
What line did they cross? It's not clear.
Probably just a new regime in power. Now moving on to actual robot news. As we move into April, there is some robot excitement because a first ever will be happening in the robot world.
NASA to fly the Ingenuity Mars helicopter in early April. Despite having a much lower atmospheric pressure than here on Earth, it's a helicopter for the Martian atmosphere.
It ain't much of one.
The picture shows the ejected protective cover on the bottom of the rover because it's got a, undocked from the rover or whatever. Yeah, it dropped the little plastic or the little housing thing.
It had a little baby.
It has littered on Mars. I wonder what the fine for that is.
Well, it was littering on Mars before it ever landed. Just leave your junk up there. That's what we do.
Leave no trace.
You think if we ever recover all this stuff, what will it be worth?
It belongs in a museum.
Yeah, but let's assume that the governments aren't the first to get there.
Tens of millions of dollars, probably.
Of course, then you have to ship it back.
I don't know. People are paying, $2.9 million for these NFTs. What if NASA sells the NFT for the, right of first refusal on whenever we get to Mars? I mean, that'd be a great way for NASA to raise money.
I guess. I'm sitting here thinking, is anybody going to be that much of a sucker? But then I immediately realized that they will.
Think about all the NFT, the fart NFTs. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we just did a story about it.
Well, I don't know if you and I will ever see humans on Mars, but maybe we can experience that just by having our brains rewired.
Researchers found a way to send tiny robots into mouse brains. It sounds a little more elaborate than it is, but the robots crossed the blood-brain barrier because the robots were subjected to an external magnetic field.
Well, they were first encapsulated in E. coli, which made the white blood cells attack them, which then crossed the blood-brain, at which point they could use the magnetic field. And any of you that ever had a Nokia phone would have been very successful at this job because it's literally a magnetic game of Snake.
Yeah.
There it is.
Neat, huh?
And they can move them around. They move real slow, but still, they can be used to deliver things to the brain.
Exciting times.
Just gloss over the E. coli thing. That's fine.
Well, yeah. They might have to fix that.
It probably won't lead to a brain tumor.
I don't know if it's enough E. coli to harm you.
But that was
Maybe
the other
they'll
thing.
find another pathogen that performs the same function that's maybe less horrible. But
Wasn't that the other thing with this article, is that this is to kind of combat certain kinds of brain tumors?
I'm sure that's what they're working
Yeah.
to. Deliver drugs directly to a location in the brain. Yeah. Well, if you're wondering why Wendell has littered our desk with shill stuff, I was wondering the same thing. Maybe this is what motivated him.
YouTube is testing automatic product placement detection in videos. The video giant looks like it's getting another recommendation algorithm. My favorite product placement in the history of all media is Taco Bell and Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Not in Demolition Man?
Oh, that's a close second.
What about Starbucks and Game of Thrones?
That was not intentional.
Still
I always thought that was funny in The Walking Dead when they would have like that year's latest car, but the apocalypse happened like years ago.
The factory was automated, Krista.
It just kept producing and designing new cars. Don't worry about it.
Now, the detractors from this, they see it in a different light, and I can't help but agree to them. They assume that YouTube is getting into the world of affiliate links
Yes.
and automating them,
That's coming.
which sucks because YouTube creators, that's one of the ways that they try to get a little bit of blood from that stone. And YouTube's like, not anymore.
Yeah, the affiliate link is much, much better than the crumbs that the algorithm provides.
So,
But we do love those crumbs, YouTube. Please don't take them away.
Store.level1text.com.
We should be getting some new stuff in the store soon. Very soon.
New spring, new stuff in the store.
Oh, yeah.
The spring line.
I am almost done with the current batch of KVMs. I think probably by April 10th or 11th, they're shipping in the order that they were received, and I should be done by April 10th or 11th. There was a slight delay with some of them. I'm going to be cutting it close with some of the single monitor versions. I don't know. I'll reach out if we've got problems or a little bit of a delay there, but we'll see.
We'll tweet when they're back in stock as well. We've gotten several requests on Twitter, like, when are they coming back? It's like, soon. TM.
Yeah,
soon.
we're going to be good on dual monitor KVMs, but the single ones, we had a little bit of a supply chain issue.
They're not coming through the canal. They're coming across
No,
the
they're
Pacific, so you got that going for you.
Do you think it'll still be stuck by the time they watch this?
Yeah.
It'll be a full week.
Some people have said it could take up to 4 weeks. That seems crazy.
That does seem crazy.
With the amount of land moving and terraforming we can do that we've seen, how are we not able to do this?
Are we that worried about just getting a bunch of tugboats and just push it out of the way?
They've got tugboats pulling one end and then excavators digging the other end. But I think it's so heavy and so much of it is grounded at this point, they can't move it.
Huh. I wonder if there's like a concern about, like, could we cause a collapse of something else maybe if they dig it out too fast? I don't know.
Well, we could tear the ship apart and then it
Yeah.
would just be a canal full of containers. That would be
Easy,
bad.
simple. Yeah.
That would be bad, yeah.
This article, to get the headline that I was copy pasting from when I organized these stories, it's just a tiny, tiny little nugget. I don't even know if you noticed it. But the point here is not the new number, which is lower, but what is being replaced by, which is robots.
Defense Review, British Army to be cut to 72,500 troops by 2025. The article points out that their troops, they're supposed to be like 82,000 strong, but they're like 76,000 strong because for the last decade, but their target is going to go from 85,000 to 72,000, and there's going to be more technology. Drones, robots, whatever.
Most of them probably made by China for when we go to war with China.
Because that's obviously going to work. Oh, the EMP shield on this is so good. No.
There's a lot of old jokes, and I imagine this has happened several times, where the drunk father is driving drunk, but when the police lights come on, he swaps the seat with his young son because it's better to have the young son driving than the drunk father driving. That's kind of the 21st century way of doing this now.
Two teens alone in a Tesla, no one in the driver's seat when it backed into a patrol car, deputies say. It did about $300 of damage to the Tesla. The patrol car was unharmed. The deputies were just like, we're going to give them a ticket, but glad nobody was hurt.
So they were driving, or so say the deputies. These two kids were joyriding in the Tesla. They took it without their parents' permission and lied about where they were going and actually crossed a state line. But when they saw the police lighting them up, they were like, just turn on the autopilot, get in the back. And
the autopilot pulled over.
Didn't work. But then it backed into the police car.
Yeah. So it was like one for autopilot and then take one away for autopilot.
I'll pull over for the cops, but also screw the cops.
It'd be funny if it would just took off. You're not taking us alive, pig. Out of that speaker. Are the speakers installed yet? The mandatory.
Yes.
Have you ever heard one?
Yeah, you can program it. Like you go into the dashboard, you can set it to be whatever you want.
NWA?
If you would like your car to make fart noises for its running noise, you can totally do that.
Well, I think we've talked about something very similar to this before, and I made the same comment. Apparently, I'm the only person who's ever seen Highlander 2. This is a bad idea.
Dimming the sun, $100 million geoengineering research program proposed. All options to fight climate crisis must be explored, says National Academy. Now, they're not actually talking about dimming the sun. That would be crazy. What they're instead proposing is putting a bunch of dust into the atmosphere, which will have the effect of dimming the sun without actually affecting the nuclear furnace that is our sun.
But it would affect the humans who breathe on Earth.
I think the only reason they're not talking about actually dimming the sun is because there is no way to actually dim the sun. If they thought they could get away with it, they might do it.
Listen here, the sun is only 99% of the mass in our solar system. We could definitely affect it with our puny conventional weapons.
Also, strikingly similar to the Mr. Burns plot from The Simpsons when he was shot. They wanted to blot out the sun, so they used more nuclear power. Just can't be a good idea. Well, the startup game is more perception than reality, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
It's all about getting people to be interested in your thing and to give you that sweet, sweet venture capital. And how do you do it? Well, sometimes you do it just by hiring the right people. But I can't imagine he brings anything to this table. Can you?
No.
I mean, come on.
He brings his fame to the table, and that's what matters.
Prince Harry joined Silicon Valley startup. What would be funny is if, like, he was actually a stealth, tech guru this entire time, and because of the royal families, why he had to keep it on the down low.
But his job, I've never even heard of this job before. It was like Chief Impact Officer.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Is he jackhammering all day? What's an impact officer?
I think it means about the impact on society as a whole.
Oh.
Obviously.
And he's particularly suited to understand that because he's lived here all his life? Oh, wait. He has nothing in common with the average man. This is a startup that's about mental health.
Well,
coaching.
I guess he did do some charity work, I guess, when he was part of the royal family. So I guess that would kind of qualify. But, is being an intern or something like that really, the kind of experience you would need for this?
Well, he mentioned his military time. That's what he always goes back to. He said that, military is such a stressful mental environment that he understands how to cope with that. Because,
reading the letter right now, I'm just like,
You know how they put him right in the combat zone with everybody else and didn't give him special treatment when he was in the Royal Marines?
Wow. That wasn't how that went at all.
Oh, he says he has 4 key areas: driving advocacy and awareness, guiding BetterUp's social mission and impact, influencing the vision of BetterUp's platform, and expanding BetterUp's global community.
Those
So he is just there as like a billboard.
the combinations of words that you just used there mean nothing.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, this startup is using a royal as like a marketing thing. Worst case
absolutely.
scenario, they've duped a royal into participating in their scam.
But I tell you what they did brilliantly is right now his name is hot because of the whole Markle racism angle. And this could be a big tie into that. He understands it. Sure, he's lived a life of privilege. If white privilege is a thing, is there anywhere in the world it's more concentrated than the Windsor Palace?
Yeah.
So,
Would that be like, it's like a coming of age story, but it's like it dawns on you that you've lived the pinnacle of a privileged life, and this is your way of atoning for that.
but wouldn't you then have to give up all the perks from that life, which would mean resigning from this job? I don't know. I don't care. I'm not going to use that service, no matter how good it is. Ultrasound is an amazing technology. Now, generally, we will use that for locating parasites in the human body. But this is a brilliant new way to use them. However, there is a giant catch that they mentioned very late in the article.
Ultrasound reads monkey brains, opening the new way to control machines with thought. It's going to require some surgery.
Little bit, just a tiny piece of your skull needs to be removed. That's not a big deal.
Worth it.
A small
Just
skull
to look
piece.
cool.
You didn't need that anyway. And if you've ever been in a bicycle accident that was particularly severe, you probably don't even have that piece of your brain anyway.
But I guess that is, if you have to have invasive brain stuff for whatever reason, that's good news for you.
I don't want to put Elon Musk in charge of this technology. I don't 100% trust him to not leave something in there.
I wouldn't let him feed my cats. We are bearing down on the big deadline for all the UFO releases, and that's exciting. But in the meantime, they're trickling out some breadcrumbs just to keep us hyped.
UFO report details, quote-unquote, difficult to explain sightings, says U.S. ex-intelligence director. The U.S. military pilots and satellites have recorded, quote-unquote, a lot more UFO sightings that have been made public, John Ratcliffe says. I don't know if it was him or one of the other people, but there's a quote in this article that says, it's like you look at some of this stuff and you think, oh, the enemy or, other countries are just a little bit farther ahead of where we think they are in terms of technology. And then there are other events that happen that just you have zero explanation for.
A move from subsonic to sonic speeds with no sonic boom was one of the big ones. Some other like almost teleportation like stuff that they were witnessing, and no explanation.
I want to believe.
Rocket-like movement with no particulate emission.
No propulsion. It's going to be exciting, although I don't think we'll ever get any real details. Do you?
No.
I mean, space-time theoretically is kind of springy. So if you can, everything revolves around dynamically being able to play with mass, which the only way that we definitely know of involves insane amounts of energy that would be impossible for us to control, that if the tiniest little thing went wrong, Earth wouldn't be here anymore.
I know some places you can go and you can dynamically play with mass for $20. And one man who might be going to one of those places, probably not.
In the not too distant future.
I'm not sure if he cares anymore, but if anybody would, I would say it was him, because he does seem to be cheating the Reaper year after year after year. Now, I assume you read the details of this.
I did.
How likely would you be to do it?
I'm not interested in this at all.
At all?
At all.
What if I lowered the price to $250?
No. Maybe like $100.
Wow. I don't know if I believe that. I think you'd go $250.
William Shatner to celebrate his 90th birthday with 2-day Star Trek event. So I actually know somebody, or I know of somebody, that paid the $1,500 for the full experience.
Wow.
And
Of this or a previous one?
of this upcoming thing. They got their
okay.
ticket locked in and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are willing to pay that, and it makes sense. The problem is that when Shatner is in real person mode, he just doesn't care. And so,
But this is probably the last one. You think he'll put some effort into it?
I think, everyone has been sort of progressively more into like the don't care. Because, I was at Dragon Con with Shatner a really long time ago, and he was super in I don't care mode. And it wasn't off-putting, but it was like, the enthusiasm that he has for certain things. It's like, oh, I realize now that's just acting. He's not actually enthusiastic about those things.
No, he doesn't care about Star Trek at all.
Or not even Star Trek, just like the ideals of Star Trek. Like,
right? Yeah.
Can we? He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. So what you get here is there's some place where they have recreated the bridge. You're going to go there. You stay there for 2 days. You get a bridge experience with him. And then he gives a speech on the bridge, and you get to be part of that. You get dinner with him. Is that both days?
Mm-hmm.
And you get an autograph and a picture. $1,500.
Whew.
And that's not including lodging.
Yeah.
Right? You probably have to feed yourself for most of the meals those days.
Yeah. I mean, if I were dying, I'd probably do it, but
we're all dying, bro.
There's a little bit more immediacy.
Yeah, well, you want to talk about immediacy? He's dying. You're never going to get this chance again. What about Patrick Stewart?
I might be more likely to do it with him or Ian McKellen, or possibly even like James Doohan. I think James Doohan is probably the most normal person. Or
James Doohan you get for $500 all day.
He died, but I mean when he was alive. What about Sulu, George Takei?
Also would be very cheap, comparatively cheap. But also I think he would be a way better conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like I think that George Takei would handle that so much better and be a much more genuine person, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Shutter is he's gonna leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths at the end of his life.
Yeah,
because that's just who he is. But that's part of his charm, isn't it? I don't know. Good luck pronouncing the name of this school. But I threw this one in there just to stir it up.
Warren Bull school is sorry for making boys stand in apology for quote unquote behaviors of their gender. So the school thought that it would be a good activity to show all of the wrong things that men have done in history, and then ask the male students to stand and say that they're, or I guess the act of standing was the apology for their behavior. What could possibly go wrong?
It's bizarre.
Yeah, that whole sins of the father thing, I think we've established that you shouldn't do that, especially to kids. But here we are. It's not even their father. It's all the fathers.
Well, I guess the assembly, like, they were trying to drive home, like, if you see one of your female classmates being harassed, like, you should speak up. But I feel like this kind of, like, it's like, oh, I remember that experience of having to stand, and now I feel really uncomfortable, and now I don't want to stand up for my classmate.
Yeah.
Why would you make that so uncomfortable?
Or even worse, it's like, oh God, I'm not even going to talk to women because what's going to happen here? Well, you know what we're building, Krista? We're building a new generation of cheese counter encounters. Cheese counter encounter? Doesn't work.
Cheese countering?
I had a terrible cheese counter today. This is another one of those headlines where I put it in, and after reading the story, I was like, I probably should just delete that. But I left it in, and I like to think about, if this guy does get elected, imagine the angry phone calls. Because people aren't going to understand his message at all.
Tamil Nadu election candidate promises a helicopter, trip to the moon, 1 crore, and there's a catch. So in addition to that, he also promised a robot for housework. That was the one that caught my attention.
There were several other things they didn't even mention here. It's just insane, all the things that he says you can have.
Just elect me and I'll make all this happen. And it's like, you sound like a politician.
Yeah, and the catch is, it's all just to raise awareness about how common it is for Indian politicians to offer free stuff to get votes. He's not actually offering any of this, if you read between the lines, or past the first paragraph.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I think most people aren't going to read past the first paragraph.
They're going to be like, no, he's totally going to, that's how he gets elected.
Yeah, where's my helicopter? How hilarious, well, how tragically hilarious would it be if we just started handing out helicopters to everybody? It would probably have the population, don't you think?
I think I'd probably just try. Well, I guess you can't really sell it because if everyone has one, there's not
Exactly.
going to be any market for
There
it.
would be no value.
What the hell would I do with it?
It's in your yard, Krista, and you're just sitting there looking at it like, I bet I could do it. I bet I could.
I just turn it into a giant planter. A greenhouse. I'd turn it into a greenhouse.
Instead of a national vaccination plan, it's a national helicopter pilot's license program. 200 million licensed helicopter pilots in 200 days.
This is just a beautiful, beautiful headline because did he think about this for even a millisecond?
Nope.
Even a femtosecond. What's the smallest one now?
Femtosecond's pretty small.
I think we found one that's smaller. He didn't even spend that amount of time thinking about this statement.
Democratic senator says the government can combat gun violence the same way that they tackled the opioid crisis. He doesn't realize we still have an opioid crisis because he's been given so much money.
Or that it's worse than it's ever been. It's only getting worse. But the real reason, perhaps the real meaning behind this, is that it's literal. They are going to combat it the same way, by destroying lives with it.
This man needs to call up any of my relatives so he can hear the long list of, well, so-and-so's back on drugs.
Yeah, back on drugs.
The Biden administration urges the Supreme Court to let cops enter homes and seize guns without a warrant. So this was an old married couple, and they were fighting. And the husband went and got an unloaded pistol and put it on the table and told his wife, was like, go ahead, do it. Put me out of my misery. It was not loaded. But at some point, the police got called because, old married couples, as they do, they were still fighting. And I guess the police decided that he had to go to the hospital to be checked out for psychiatric care.
He volunteered because they promised they wouldn't touch his guns.
So then they went back to the house and told his wife that he said it was okay for them to take the guns. That was a lie. And they took the guns. And so it was like just lies, a lot of lies. And then,
So this is going to be a Supreme Court case, and Biden, his whole team is pressuring to say, yes, this is fine. We should be able to do this.
I don't think this is fine because this will be used as a wedge to do more egregious things than this. Like, this particular instance is not insanely egregious, but it will only snowball from here. So we must not allow this.
But we already saw back during the election a lot of people crying out and saying that you voting a certain way should be a mental health red flag to take your guns.
Yeah, that's why I say it's going to snowball from here any one of a number of ways.
There is quite a bit of snow already.
This is even being considered? Yeah, it seems that way.
And if you're one of those people who's like, you don't need guns, well, sir, what would you do in this situation? Because let me tell you, you will take my cats from my cold dead hands.
Upper Peninsula man awakes to intruder holding gun to head, demanding his cats.
He only took one cat. And the great failure, although MLive did mention it, but they didn't figure out what happened to the cat. They caught the guy, but nobody knows where the cat is.
Oh.
He might have made it home. Maybe he didn't. Nobody's reporting it. And what about the other cat? That cat has to spend its whole life like, why didn't I get picked? What's wrong with
The cat
me?
goes and looks in the mirror and he's like, why wasn't it me?
If only air travel were permitted, we would use the Patreon money and make this a level 1 expose. We would just fly there and figure it out.
Oh, the New York
I'd be
Post.
down to go spend some time in the UP.
This is a terrible website. This one is great because we now have more visibility into our leaders than ever before. The cameras are always running, and
Or insanely high resolution.
the internet sleuths are always running and always looking for something to latch onto. This one is pretty damning. I mean, the level of training wheels, I guess you would call this, for a press conference is, I don't know if it's unprecedented, but we've never seen it before.
New photos show cheat sheets used by Biden during his first press conference. I didn't really see this as a super big deal, but then again, I get,
Oh my God, this website.
in this kind of a scenario, I would have needed something like this personally. But then I don't think that I'm presidential material, so.
Yeah.
So,
I have to repeat lines over and over when we do videos. So
as you can see here, that is a picture of the reporter so that he knows who to pick on, in what order, and their name. And I don't know if you can read the text, but I'm pretty sure the text has a little bit of information about what that question is going to cover. Because it's all scripted.
Dun, 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 dun.
And oh boy, did they throw some softballs. And
this is just the first press conference. It's fine. No, it's not fine.
And the hardballs, like the one about when do we get to go into the migrant facilities? It was just like, I don't know.
What's going on in Syria?
I couldn't tell you. Why are you asking me that? What was it? Was 2018 or 2019 when we lost Harambe?
I
that
think it
was
was before that.
2016.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow,
I'm pretty sure.
A long time. I don't know. I think maybe we've had enough time to heal.
No.
But we almost lost another one.
Father arrested after taking 2-year-old inside elephant enclosure at San Diego Zoo. Listen, those elephants, they are tired of your crap. They want none of it.
Well, they're in prison. They got nothing to do all day. Here it is. There is a video of the guy, because obviously everybody has a phone these days. And they do say that one of the bull elephants immediately charged.
Ooh.
But luckily no one was hurt. And
How ballsy do you have to be? It's like, you know what? My 2-year-old needs to go pet an elephant today.
No elephants were hurt.
one thing about the elephants, they're not going to forget this.
It's precisely that a prior incident was not forgotten is why they charged.
Now, I did not see this posted in any of the major news places. Did you?
No.
No.
I just saw actually one of our Twitch lurkers posted the GIF. And I was like, that can't be real. So I Googled it in the Google News, and yeah, so news.com.au. I don't know if this is a well-known website for news. I imagine it is. But yeah, that ship that is stuck in the canal had let's do the headline first, had a very interesting, in that little bay or whatever it is, it moved around a lot before it got wedged in the canal, which makes me wonder, like, was this all planned?
Is this an intelligence operation by some foreign company or foreign country?
And if it is, why would you do that in the beginning? Nothing about this makes sense.
Cargo ship draws a giant penis in the Red Sea and becomes wedged in the Suez Canal. So it's like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah, this is a plot of the GPS coordinates of that ship.
And I think that's got to be on purpose, don't you?
Seems like.
There's not enough, it doesn't look like anyway, there's not enough other boats in the area to like warrant making that pattern.
No. And if you, the animation actually shows the direction of the ship as well, I think. And like how they drifted it in certain ways. It really, really, really looks like it was on purpose.
Yeah.
But this raises another very important question. If your navigational and seamanship skills are so good that you can do this, how do you get wedged in a canal?
That's going to be Exhibit A in the trial.
There's nothing about this makes sense. And one excavator?
Come on.
What are we doing, folks? This one is fantastic. Now, I don't really... They say idol. They're talking about like a K-pop. I mean, it's Japan, but they're talking about that type of thing,
J-pop.
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like the
Like
pop
your favorite
stars.
pop artist. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, oh crap! I accidentally went to the...
Japanese company is offering paid leave for their employees grieving over their favorite idol's retirement.
So, if she... I guess they cycle them in and out because you have to have constant young girls, right? So if she falls off or gets married, that's 10 days. Now, if she's only your second favorite girl, you think you have to register ahead of time?
Probably.
You have to give them like your list of favorite pop. If she's your second favorite girl, you can get 3 to 5 days if she gets married, I think. And they said you could negotiate if your mental suffering was so high because of this, you could actually get more than 10 if you talk to them about it.
Meanwhile, here in the U.S., it's like, please let me off one day. I am very sick with the Rona.
Meanwhile, here in the U.S., it is, you had better meet your package quota, otherwise we're going to fire you, because there's 10 people that want your job.
People are peeing in bottles.
We're peeing in bottles, and they're buying bottles of pee. And finally, we love to end on an animal story. And this, we're getting into spring. Krista, how about camping this year? Have you planned your first camp?
Maybe in a couple weeks.
You should camp in your backyard first.
I know. Hey, stop the whining, Rue.
What about
sitting over here yawning?
Yeah, that's gonna work. Once you count to 3. What about if you were to take Rue? I remember you took Rue to a lake one time. You think about any of those? Yeah.
Yeah, she loves that.
A local lake that the local rivers empty into.
She would love that.
Read the headline.
What is she doing? Hi.
Headline.
Sorry.
Get Rue to read the headline.
Highway accident leads to over a dozen bull sharks being dumped in. How do you pronounce this? Is it Wichita?
Wakita?
Wakita River. Wow. A dozen bull sharks.
These sharks were being transported on a truck, which had an accident, and they did manage to fish the truck out of the river, but when they got it out, guess what was no longer in the truck?
I don't think those sharks are going to survive in the Arkansas climate, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. They seem to be worried that they would be a threat, so maybe they can survive there. And one of them, whose name, of course, is Jaws,
naturally,
is over 12 feet long, or 15 feet long, and unusually aggressive for a bull shark.
Well, if there are any serial killers living in the Hot Springs, Arkansas area, it's your lucky day.
What you want to do now, a novice serial killer would just throw the bodies in there and hope. A pro serial killer chums for a week or two before to get them on a timing path.
I don't know. Is that one of our best pro criminal tips yet? I don't know.
It's niche, but it's good.
If you need it, you're really happy to have that tip. So just go down to the butcher and be like, you got any like viscera or entrails and stuff you get rid of? Let me buy that in bulk. Head down to the river and pop it in.
Why do you need this? I'm going catfishing.
I can't remember if I'm thinking of tiger sharks or bull sharks, but there's one that can survive in fresh water.
Well,
I might be thinking of tiger sharks.
They didn't mention that, but you would think that these wildlife guys would immediately know if they were no threat because they're going to be dead in a couple of days.
Yeah. But I guess they can survive in fresh water. It's not great. Not great for the citizens of that area if they want to go swimming.
I wouldn't want to do one of those river runs, where you just get your cooler in one inner tube and you're in the other one.
Yeah.
And you see that dorsal fin come up out of the water.
Normally I just have to worry about snakes, but now it's sharks.
Oh man, I saw. I don't know if this was a recent video. It was horrific. This is a horrific thing to end the news on, but I'm going to do it anyway. There was they had a crocodile, a massive, massive crocodile, and you know that scene in Jaws where he's like, if you cut that shark open and the young boy falls out on the deck, like that thing. It was that scene, but when they cut it open, a whole 9-year-old unmarked child was in there. It didn't even chew it. A whole child, intact, head first, in the crocodile.
Where was this?
I'm not sure. It was
it's
it
in
looked
Florida.
like
we should just really just cut it off.
No, it wasn't a U.S.
Transport off.
It was probably like where do crocs live? Are they in the Amazon? I think they're in the Amazon, right?
I think there are. Yeah.
I think it was the Amazon.
Ooh. Anyway, that's something you guys can all think about this Easter weekend.
Or you can watch it if you want. I'm sure it's easy to Google.
Oh, don't do that. Don't give in to the call of the void on the internet. Anyway,
well, Krista, you gonna give us a bull shark goodbye?
Sharks don't really make any noises, so it's just like
Marinate.
goodbye.